Yalla yalla, here we are. Good afternoon, good evening, welcome.
After evening,
Future Shot after evening. And how you doing, FS?
Yeah, man, I'm doing really well, thank you. It's good that we're doing this little show now. Obviously, we missed our little Sunday show because we were both otherwise entailed. But it's good to be here tonight. So yeah, let's get cracking.
Yeah, we were pretty poorly entailed, weren't we? We were in a pretty poor state actually after the Saturday. Because we had a sort of noble idea for Sunday that we'd do some kind of live on the road of like London or something like that, some kind of pub crawl. But yeah, the mind was willing, but the flesh was nauseous and weak, and stayed in bed until 12. So no, we didn't make it, did we? But some other time, I guess.
I mean, sorry, 1 second. I'm still slightly eating as well, but yeah. So it was, for me personally, I feel like it was a bit of an age thing, but yeah.
Oh yeah, because you'd broken your fast since February, was it, or something? Your alcohol fast, and since January you hadn't had any chocolate and cakes.
So yes, in 2025 I hadn't had any confectionery of any kind. So whatever, chocolate, ice cream, biscuits, whatever you want to say, it's none of that was happening. And then also, like, more pertinently, I suppose, since March the 5th there'd been no alcohol, but then obviously at the weekend there was alcohol, and that played a part in the Sunday delays. So
yeah, there was all sorts of alcohol, wasn't there? There was all manner of concoctions. Some of them were scarcely drinkable, like that garlic and shots place.
Oh yeah, no, I Garlic and Shots is an excellent establishment with very unique.
Oh yeah, they were not impugning the establishment in any way, because we'd like to go back there, but yeah,
a unique. I mean, what was that one that we had right at the start? Did you even pay for that first one? What was the one that we had that was literally?
I think they should have paid us for that, because it was a horseradish one, but he said no one ever drank it, and it was on the top shelf, and it had been forgotten, and it had been there perhaps for half a century or more. But at least
that's what it tasted like, anyway.
It didn't have any redeeming features. It was nasty.
It was quite literally it was probably quite literally the worst drink I'd had that night. I had that night. I don't know about you, but it was definitely horrendous.
Well, that's the thing, isn't it? When you go to one of these places where they sell all these different weird flavored vodkas, I just want the ones that taste nice. I mean, you know what I mean? I know our friend there was drinking all these ones, and her face was. I thought, actually, that reaction, that's got to be worth sort of £4.50 for the shot, because she was having quite an experience every time she tried something different. So, and I was kind of ruined the fact that I just went for the lime vodka, you know.
That's kind of what that place is all about, you know. It's kind of all about like a different experience. It certainly gives you that. I must say that is Garlic and Shots. That is down in Frith Street in central London.
It's actually a nice little place, isn't it? And it's amazing how they keep open, because being so small, and literally have a few tables outside, don't they? But it's a pretty cool place.
Yeah, and the thing is, like, you walk in and it kind of like appears, to, I suppose, the untrained eye, to be a sort of relatively nice little kind of like pub or bar with just the kind of usual sort of things that you would expect, and then you go downstairs into this kind of, I don't know how you would describe it.
It's like a dungeon. It's kind of like a satanic dungeon, and I remember it's all skeleton. It's a bit weird, and the girl seemed really nice who was working down there, and I hope her soul is okay, intact, because of all this. There are all these skeletons and this demonic sort of imagery and stuff, and I suppose it's all a bit, a bit of fun or something, I suppose, like Halloween style. But did you notice all that? The sort of theme?
I mean, it's impossible not to notice it. Yeah, I mean, like, it was. It's a unique place. I mean, it's somewhere that I'd recommend at least people who visiting at least once. Do you know what I mean? Just give it a try at least once. See how you feel, see how it goes. You've got about 300 different types of shot you can have. I think it's something like that. So it's quite impressive, really. They got them all there.
Which was your favourite one of the night?
Ready-made, isn't it?
Hey?
They had them all there ready-made. They just
Well, they already met all in the bottles, aren't they?
Yeah, pretty much as far as I remember.
Which was your favorite one that you had?
I don't know.
Is it the liver massage?
The liver massage, the appropriately named liver massage.
What was it? Jack Daniel's vodka tequila, I think.
Well, yeah, I mean, you can go online and you can see, like, prior to visiting this place, you can go online and you can have a look at the menu and you can sort of see exactly what's in store for you in terms of the shots and what you can select. I mean, there's like a good 300 bloody shots there. I mean,
it's
pretty impressive.
Cool place. Yeah, a place like that. One of the reasons make London still somewhat interesting. Aside from the endless, Nando's and McDonald's and Starbucks everywhere, you still find little places like that, don't you? And it's like, it's kind of like
it's unique little idiosyncratic, esoteric weirdness to it, which is obviously quite welcome. Like ourselves, I think.
But it's something that's always on the decline, isn't it? It's like, as we remember that French restaurant, that fantastic French restaurant that I talked about down Upper Street in Islington, and how we'd seen it open and thriving the week. Literally, actually, it was probably last year. So anyway, but it was closed and repossessed, wasn't it? I mean, it's just one of those things, probably to be replaced by a fucking Nando's or something like that, But really cool French restaurant, cheap, only a small few people in, not massive, not massive, loads of tables crammed full of people, but a sort of a restaurant where the staff can manage and no one's crowded and everyone's fucking happy and the food's fantastic because as fewer people there are. The smaller the restaurant is, the better the food's going to be. In some cases, in many cases, obviously it's not. If you're starting to cater for hundreds of people, it's a lot harder. But yeah,
generally speaking, I do think that is correct because I remember one of my favorite restaurants. This is going back quite a few years ago now, and it doesn't. And again, it doesn't exist there anymore, unfortunately. But just sort of down the lane from where I am now, at Turnpike Lane. I used to live in Crouch End, more into Crouch End anyway, about sort of 15, 17 years ago. And there used to be a little restaurant that was just at the end of my road, basically. And yeah, tiny little place. Not exactly cheap, but, quality of food, absolutely excellent. A French place, I believe, as far as I remember, French cuisine. Yeah, quite a unique place. And unfortunately, yeah, it's no longer there. These little places, they're hard to find these days in London. Well, they're harder to find anyway.
Yeah, it's just becoming just depressingly replaced by pub chains where the food is really fucking expensive and you get like a mouse portion. You get more for less every time. But these little places, the honest places that have like 30, 40 years of being on the street for that time. They've got their loyal clientele. They've got their ways of doing things. They manage to make their overheads without ripping people off because there's no fucking shareholders. So if you like Young's pubs or all these bloody restaurants, these celebrity restaurants and such like that, they're all owned by sort of they all have shareholders and it's all owned by sort of various massive international companies. So they're trying to make millions and millions of pounds because that's what they have to do. That's for the shareholders. That's for the the various fucking holding companies or whatever. Everyone wants a piece of that. Everyone's trying to get a piece of fucking Gordon Ramsay or whatever it is, or whoever that is. But these little places, no one knows who the chef is necessarily. It's not the game. The game is just to be an honest little restaurant. And these places, they're literally
some unique dishes as well. And like you'll find that these places, they don't. I mean, to be honest with you, also, it's not even just unique dishes. It's sometimes just dishes that done well, like done really well. And like that's not, you don't always need to have something that's completely different and unique. You just sometimes like to have something that you're, aware of, or something that you're used to, but that's just done really nicely, and you can appreciate it because you know it and you know how it's supposed to be done. And this place has done it in the proper way, and that's what this little place at the end of the road 17, 18 years ago used to do. And it's a shame, obviously, to see that it's not there anymore. These places that do actual good work, they do good work, and then unfortunately they have to close because they're not in the best location or whatever. They don't get the business, and it's a shame.
Anyway, I'm reluctant. I've got to try and veer this conversation on track of something kind of techie, sciencey, whatever-y that we're trying to get. Because otherwise we talk shit about food for 2 hours. It just would be like the most irrelevant sort of podcast ever. But yeah, I mean, seriously, on a serious note, though, FS, it might be the end of the world. I don't know how you feel about that. Yeah,
I mean, I'm ready. I mean, I'm ready for anything. Do you know what I mean?
Well, I had a dream yesterday where I was actually nuked.
Oh yeah, you were saying so. That was that's interesting.
I was with a lady friend, and we were sat on a bench, and I felt like a sudden warm wave of air, and then a kind of light blast.
So did you? It's like a shock wave. Feel it like. Because with dreams, sometimes I think you can feel more in the dream than people realize. So did you feel the wave of it? Did you really feel something, if you know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, I felt like a shock wave, like a kind of like a warm. It wasn't a bad experience being in a dream. That's not necessarily the worst thing that's happened to me. But the worst thing was like wait, because you knew it was coming, and I was like waiting for it to come. And then I just sort of went into another dream. It didn't sort of get to the point where I'm like the skin my bones or whatever. And I wonder about that. I wonder if that's a fraud. I mean, this isn't on what I'm basing that the world's going to end. Just my stupid dream yesterday. But no, I mean, seriously, the world could end sometime. It probably will.
But it's slightly worrying when people like you and me have these kind of dreams, because we're people who are a little bit more in tune with these things, or kind of like prophetic type.
Well, it's coming out from all angles, isn't it? The end of the world now. It's like fucking Keir Starmer, who's absolute lunatic. Did you see that? He wants to everyone in England to do their Britain to put this country on a war footing.
Oh, I saw it. Yeah, I saw it earlier.
I'm nearly gonna say something I shouldn't say, and I'm not gonna say it, but you probably know what I'm gonna say about people like him and what should happen to them. But anyway, can you believe that he wants to kill us all? I mean, why is he there? Why the security services? Why? Why are they going to destroy the world? Why? Just don't get it.
As a fellow Yorkshireman, to us, that's even worse for us as well. It's like, why is a fellow Yorkshireman doing this? Why is he the one who's doing this? Like, why does it have to be a Yorkshireman doing this? It's just awful in so many ways. Like,
he's such a foul, pestilent creature. He's absolute slime. He's nasty, oozing, filthy, rotten thing. And I bet a lot of nasty secrets he's keeping, and they're being kept for him on his behalf,
Yeah, we only see the stuff that's revealed, and what is the stuff that
the Rem boys bombing his. You remember that? Bombed 3 of his addresses or something in his car. These Ukrainian absolute nutbox. And these people are our leaders, huh? No wonder we're in the trouble. But yeah, anyway. We don't necessarily have to worry about Keir Starmer bringing the world to a nuclear apocalypse, because the sun might do the job for him. Yeah. So I don't know if you can see the screen there. I'll just try and.
So is this the stuff? Because so remember, I was saying to you backstage. I was watching a friend of mine who does a show, and he got into talking about various sort of things along these lines, and was mentioning about. There was a incidents in Spain with some power outages and stuff like this, and they were putting it down to cyber attacks. So is this the kind of?
No, I've had a different theory. I mean, one of the theories. Well, the theory I heard, it supports the solar flare theory. Is that because so much of Spain is apparently relying on so-called green energy, that those networks are very unstable and can easily be overloaded. But the point is, because of this solar activity that we're having at the moment with these M-class flares, which are very high energy solar flares, coronal mass injections, where part of the corona of the sun just flies out into space and hurtles towards us, if we're lucky. The point is, those events like the Carrington event and the Miyake event, those solar weather events will neutralize and knock out transformers. And I think I mentioned last week how that's possibly why on the 12th of May, the London Underground had no power for what? I don't know how long it was, but maybe it's 20 minutes or 30 minutes. It had no power and it was temporary sort of suspension of the lines. It's the same with the Spain thing. That solar activity will neutralize any electrical transformer or system.
You have to remember, for people listening who don't realize like what the magnitude of these geomagnetic storms is. I mean, these solar flares are blasting out at distances which are like the size of our planet or more. Like the actual size of these flares are sometimes, correct me if I'm wrong, True Spoon, they're sometimes like twice or three times the size of the Earth, these flares.
Oh yeah, absolutely. The flares. I mean, I can show you an image. I could sort of, obviously the Earth is relatively far away from the sun, but yeah, a single flare would completely engulf the Earth if the Earth were placed much closer to the sun. But they completely have the ability to engulf the Earth. It's only if they're on direct target, and you can imagine that it's actually quite a tricky thing for the solar flare to specifically engulf Earth completely. So take a look at this. There's two things. There's this geomagnetic storm, which is a result of the solar flare, and this is all sort of hitting the news kind of now. I don't know if it's making the BBC or Daily Mail as such, but there's a lot going on. So we've got northern lights now in really low, in as far down and south as Texas. Apparently, we'd have it in London if we weren't so polluted. Massive Daily Mail. Daily Mail is covering it. Massive solar storm. Millions issued geomagnetic storm warning.
That's from a day ago as well. So what you're sharing there is just from a few hours ago actually as well. So they are actually
it's still ongoing. Yeah. But there's the secondary effect of this is actually earthquakes.
Winds of 100,000 kilometers per second. That's that's one of those things again where it's just kind of words, isn't it? Like you can't even imagine that. It's a difficult thing to even imagine, like because we just don't have anything relative to that's close to that on Earth, do we? I mean, like we can say 1,000 kilometers a second, but I mean, like how do you even begin to try to understand that? It's madness. Let's just say that's very fast. Let's just say.
Yeah, well, the secondary effect of the solar wind when it interacts, it interacts with Earth's magnetic field, and somehow the magnetic plasma within the Earth, and the result of this is, I presume, it's some kind of excitation. So the charged solar wind excites the hot center of the Earth. And that comes spewing all this lovely magma. But it's really and earthquakes and all sorts of geocentric events. And this is a worry actually. This could be a bit of a fucking disaster actually. I mean, there's been rumbles around San Francisco. I mean, I think Los Angeles. There was a magnitude something earthquake quite recently. I think it was in Los Angeles, was it? I'm not sure. Can't quite verify that, so I won't say any more about that. But yeah, I mean, I think Turkey, there was an earthquake. 2 have died.
Well, I was going to say, wasn't there something? I know there was something in Turkey, and I know there was also a Moroccan earthquake, but then that was a little while ago. So I'm not sure if those are connected with the solar flares.
Well, there's a series of them here. So yeah, I mean, they're all connected with the solar flares. I mean, potentially, I mean, earthquakes are, I mean, there are reports. This is one of the things about earthquakes, is that there are often reports of lights in the sky, blue lights or green lights in the sky before and even during an earthquake. And those lights, those lights, it's excited plasma leaving the Earth and going into, heading out of the Earth, trapped excited plasma discharge appearing as light, actually leaving the Earth.
Right.
So look at these. You've got, what is this, 3rd of June? That's literally today.
Today, yeah.
Yeah, so 5.8 magnitude.
Oh,
Look at this.
I might have someone. My delivery might be at the door. Sorry, I'm just
okay. You go ahead. I'll just go over these. Yeah. So we've got 5.8 magnitude, 35 kilometers from Greece, Hokkaido, Japan, 5.8, 6.1, 3.1. All over the world. There's tremors. There's literally earthquakes all over the world. So this is, I mean, yeah, it's exciting times, shall we say? I think the Turkish earthquake, Turkey, Greece earthquake, 1 dead, 69 injured. So yeah, UK Foreign Office travel advice for Greece. Okay, so yeah, that's what's going on there.
Someone's got chocolate tequila, by the way. Who's got chocolate?
Oh, okay. So you finally arrived, huh?
Yeah, I mean 2 days
overdue, isn't it?
Yeah. Anyway, I'm going to literally pour one now. My mouse is...
Oh, yeah. Good.
I'm literally pouring one now because I am off until next...
Chocolate tequila sounds like some kind of weird Bailey's type idea. I mean...
It might be. Anyway, do continue. I'm just going to mute myself whilst I open this parcel up.
All right, and you give us a taste test, yeah? So, yeah. So the sun, it seems, has this ability. I believe the sun has the capability to completely destroy Earth. So, strong X-class flare. Oh, that was March 2025. Fortunately, the flares that are impacting the Earth are M-class flares at the moment. So, the most powerful solar flare recorded in modern history was an X-28 flare, and that occurred on November the 4th, 2003. However, the Carrington event of 1859, which we talked about last week, that is thought to be an X-45 flare, and therefore the most powerful solar flare ever recorded. And obviously that in 1845, they won a lot of laptops and Wi-Fi or green energy wankers and fucking windmills and all that kind of stuff. But obviously it impacted them, as we discussed last time, that the telegraph operators could use their telegraph without batteries, just using the natural current, what they call the aurora current from the sun to power the telegraph from one part of the world to another, presumably. So this is quite worrying. I mean, I'm not saying we should worry, but I mean, it's one of those things, and it makes you realize, like, I wonder how many times these cycles of the sun just sort of saying, right, you fuckers, you're all fucking around, I've had enough, I'm going to wipe you all out and unleash a barrage of solar flares and just rattle the earth with earthquakes and volcanoes. I mean, are you still there, FS? Did you manage to open your chocolate tequila? I guess that silence is a no. Oh, you did, right?
Give me 30 seconds.
Yeah, I'm going to give you a second. Yeah, I'm
just icing up.
Okay, you're icing up, huh? So I'm just going to play something. Did you Mount Etna the other day? That erupted. It didn't kind of erupted. It totally erupted, and it's some quite good footage, which I think I've got here. No, I ain't. Where is it? Here it is. This is quite interesting. These people are actually literally tourists who had visited Mount Etna, and they're literally running for their lives. It looks a lot of fun, actually. It looks like something that only happens in movies. And this is a result of the solar activity. Etna's an active volcano, but it has been riled to new levels of intensity and excitement. Oh, what's up?
That's nice. That's nice.
Is it?
Like, I don't know if this will sound enjoyable to you or to any of the listeners, but it's essentially like drinking a chocolate milkshake, which doesn't taste of alcohol, but apparently is about 18% alcoholic due to tequila. I can't taste it, but hey, happy days.
Yeah. I mean, I've had too many glasses of Bailey's when I was a student until it came out my nose, until it was vomited out my nose. I maybe even cried Bailey's once. I don't know, but I was saturated with the stuff, and I got so sick. And I like tequila, but I think it's suspiciously close to some kind of evil Bailey's foulness. Which Bailey's is really just like
different Bailey's. This is
just cream and hairspray. That's what it tastes like to me now. So I can't.
No, Bailey's is different tasting to this. This is a bit of a superior vehicle. This thing.
Oh yeah. If you have 5 bottles, you tell me how it is. Then you'll probably have had enough of it.
I would probably have had enough of it. Yeah.
Yeah. But, I know. Yeah.
I've only got one. So yeah, I would recommend. I'm not being paid to recommend this, but Miss Amigos, how do you pronounce it? Chocolate tequila. I recommend. Very nice.
How much did it cost you?
It was 24, so not too bad.
Yeah. Is it made in this country or is it imported?
It is a Mexican thing, apparently.
Okay, cool. So anyway, have a look at this video of people.
I saw some of these ones. I saw a different one to this.
You saw this?
Yeah. Yeah, they were like, I mean, Christ, I can't imagine many things much more scary than being on a fucking live erupting.
A lot of fun as well, though. Imagine if I mean, obviously they all survived. I mean, they got a hell of a that's going to stay with them for the rest of their lives. I mean, that's going to be like a major high point for them, I think. Like, what a buzz, So let's just watch this. UFO Mania. It's quite an interesting channel. This might be up your street because he does a lot of UFO stuff. Can you see the pic? Can you see it there, FS? Yeah. So a new video, tourists and guides run for their lives. And this happened yesterday. I think it was yesterday. Yeah. That's what she said. Try again. Hey, stop the phone! Come on! It almost looks like AI. It just, the thing is, it doesn't look real to me. It looks like AI or something. I just don't know what it is. I don't know. It's just like something so unreal.
Also, I think maybe because you don't see many things like this, it does kind of look a little bit unreal.
Yeah.
Seeing something like this.
It's like, that's rubbish special effects. It doesn't look real. Feel pyroclastic flow there. You don't have to touch it.
What's Tefra mean? You said there was Tefra.
What?
What's Tefra mean? It said on the thing it was Tefra. What's Tefra? Maybe I should just.
No idea. Where was that?
It was on a bit earlier. It said at the start of the clip there was Tefra. I didn't know what. I'd seen the word.
Oh my God! Look at that, man! They're in the shadow of the pyroclastic flow. Which once that gets you, you're dead because it's boiling hot. It's hotter than boiling. I mean, it's superheated gas and dust. Jeez, look at that, man! That's a hell of a buzz. I mean, wow, gosh, that is incredible. But that's what's going on, man. That's the solar activity. The sun's waking up, and he might be about to shake us all off the earth because he's had enough of our nonsense, And I reckon that's something the sun could do. I mean, there could be cycles of destruction and repopulation of Earth and all that. Who knows? I mean, maybe Mars.
How would we necessarily know? I mean, because if it does do that, then there's not going to be any evidence to tell us that it's I mean, it might not be that there's any.
Well, there you go. There won't be any evidence. There won't be any remains or ruins
because everything out of everything
gone under lava and stuff, right? And it'll just be start again, So yeah,
it's not beyond the realms of possibility that these things are completely possible. I mean, the sun we know that the sun has a massive influence on Earth because we wake up every day and we can see things. So I mean, it's kind of of course, it can have other influences other than just lighting up, the world around us. It's perfectly plausible that these discharges and whatever other kind of things that the sun can do is able to affect us. I mean, we're pretty close. We are pretty close, to be fair. I think we sometimes maybe forget that because we don't have any disasters, I suppose, to kind of look back on. But I mean, we have to remember, we have to keep in mind that we are pretty close to the sun,
Yeah, I've got a pretty little graphic here, which sort of shows. I don't know if I want to play it because I might get a copyright. What's your name? But it's got a little. I'll just try and make that bigger. It's a little graphic of the solar wind and our magnetic field. And our magnetic field usually protects us to some extent, but with a repeated assaults by solar flares and coronal mass ejections, our own magnetic field is weakened. So you can see that kind of there. Can you see that? Is that animated?
The magnetosphere. So that can be weakened. That's kind of worrying because I mean, that's the thing that's supposed to be our shield against
magnetic sphere. Magnetic sphere, exactly. Yeah.
we're not dying like every second, basically. So I mean, we are basically battered every second, aren't we?
It's weird, isn't it? It's crazy. Not only are we tumbling around a millions of kilometers a second, but we're being battered by these unimaginably strong magnetic fields constantly. It's amazing, isn't it? And yet, outside, it's relatively quiet.
Apparently, people want to tell us that
it's shaking the leaves of a tree. I mean, you wouldn't suspect any of this stuff going on, really, would you? You know what I mean?
Apparently, people want to tell us though that the sun is fake and the moon is the same size as the sun and everything else is fake and the stars are fake and the Earth is flat and all this kind of nonsense. So apparently, that's what we're told by some cretins. But yet we have like this thing going on. Do you know what I mean? It's mad. We can obviously measure. We can obviously measure and see the effects of in terms of the aurora borealis, for example.
Quite a lot of earthquakes in bloody America as well. I'll just get exactly. I mean, let's have a look. I'll just read through these latest earthquakes in America. This was today, 3rd of June. Alaska, 4.7 magnitude. Another in Alaska, 5%, 5.0, 3.9. Idaho, 4.9, Idaho. Piedmont, California, 2.5, 4.2, 4.4, Alaska, California, Idaho. They seem to be the areas. There was an earthquake near San Jose, 3.1. Obviously, these are fortunately very moderate earthquakes, and the flares that have been recorded have been only M class, but if the intensity of the sun increased, it would be more than feasible that Earth could be completely disordered, at least driven to a point where there's absolute mass worldwide chaos. So
well, this is kind of what I think we look forward to. I think we touched upon this last week as well, when I think I said about, well, what if this just increases by 1%? Like what is like, I remember, because 1% doesn't sound like a lot. Or even so even 5% or 10%. Like these are not like big percentages, but what if the flares and the activity increases by intensity to that degree? I mean, like are then we looking at some real kind of like globally catastrophic situations? Like, do we even know? Can we even sort of speculate on like what is likely to happen if it gets sort of like, say, 2, 3, 4% worse, 5% worse? Do we even have an idea? Will it just be like heavier earthquakes? Will it just be more of these events, like more in more places on the Earth, or no,
it'll be just mass destruction.
Good.
I mean, it almost makes you wonder if, because as we used to be like conspiracy theorists, didn't we, really, on the old forums and whatnot, and there was like a little bit of an idea that what if the elites know something's coming that we don't know about, like how the priesthood, the ancient, the Druids or the Egyptians or whatever, the ancient priesthood knew when to predict the eclipses. They knew those very complicated cycles, the blood moons, stuff like that. Well, Act 2, exactly. I mean, there's so many different things, and of course, you would use those cycles to bamboozle and wonderfy and stupefy and control the public, who would believe that you had the power to make the sun go black and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, there was that great story. I'm probably at risk of repeating myself, but I think we touched upon it a couple of weeks ago when we were talking about Columbus and how he predicted I can't remember the exact story, but when they were invading and he predicted about there being a blood moon, and like he was like, if you don't do this, I can't remember exactly what it was. I would need to sort of Google it, but it was something like he said to the natives something like, if God is on my side, he will make the moon turn to red. It will turn to blood. And because he knew there was going to be a blood moon in the next few days or whatever it was, of course, the moon turned to red. And then the natives were like, oh my God, the moon's turned to red, just as he predicted. And then that gave him the leverage to just get them to do whatever he wanted, sort of thing.
Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, we always used to wonder, I mean, don't want to give the elites too much credit, but, at the same time, could it be that I don't necessarily know that I believe this is true, but could, why are they so sort of keen to destroy the Earth? Why do they sort of seem to have such a careless, hypocritical manner? On the one hand, they pretend to be environmentalists, and on the other hand, they just wage infinite war and stuff like that. So we also sort of thought, well, what if they know something, and that's why they're bunkering down. They actually know there's going to be some kind of terrible solar catastrophe, and it's going to wipe out most of life on Earth.
I kind of thought that before about like how if the elites did know certain things or knew that certain catastrophes were going to happen, like why would they not necessarily want to mitigate them or anything like that? Because they're still destroying, potentially anyway, if they're going to be that disastrous, they're still destroying where they live. It's not like particularly in their favor to have these disastrous things happen. So that's always been kind of a thing that's sort of a question in my mind. But yeah, maybe they do, maybe they don't. I don't know. I mean, like, it depends how far everything goes up. I mean, like, people tend to think that things stop at a government height type level, whether there's like there's the ceiling is like the government type level, but it's whether the ceiling is that level or whether the ceiling goes higher and there's some other kind of contact that they have, whether there's other kind of contact. And yeah, obviously we wander into a conspiration or sort of like
some other kind of contact. Yeah, I suppose. On the subject of contact, I've just closed the window. That's a bit of a shame because I had this. I'm just going to try and find that again because you like your alien stuff, don't you? You want to see some UFOs and things. We could just have a
have a bit of aliens, yeah.
All right, listen. I'm just going to try and. I don't know if I can find it. Let's get So that same stream where I had the Earth, Mount Etna volcano. Yeah, there was a pretty good little feed about aliens. It may about UFOs rather. It'll wait till after. So yeah, did you want to? You were saying what you were alluding to flat Earth earlier.
Again, right? I was on a stream. I wasn't on a stream actually. I was listening to a stream yesterday, quite late into the night, and it's usually a football stream, but it's one of my friends who does this stream, and he was eventually getting into kind of more conspirational type like chat. But there was someone in the chat room who kept going on about flat Earth and basically how much they believed in flat Earth and how the moon was the same size as the sun. And space was fake and the usual kind of thing that you hear. And it was kind of weird because there was some other stuff that he was saying about the holographic universe and things like this that I was like, okay, I'm more acquiesced to that sort of thing. So he was saying some stuff that I would necessarily agree with, but he was very much returning back. This guy in the chat was very much returning back to flat Earth theory, I guess. What I was going to say to you, as we kind of like discussed a little bit backstage, was sort of like what are the best kind of arguments against it? What are the most sort of like foolproof arguments against it? E.g., the existence of the seasons and what we've already touched upon as well with the evidence of the aurora borealis and the effects of the magnetosphere and all this kind of stuff and the magnetic shield. It's like what would you say the kind of like the best arguments? If someone was to try to argue, if you were to sort of meet someone down the pub or down the bar or whatever, and they were trying to argue flat Earth with you, and they were getting kind of like quite vehement about it, like what would you kind of like say to them? Where's all
the friggin' magma coming from? Where does magma come from? I mean, the thing is a flat Earth. What is it? Is it a flat? Is it a pie? Is it round but flat, or is it square and flat? Or is it, how thick is it? I mean, I don't know. There's no sort of like replacement Scientology. I mean, that's the word because like theology is to do with the things relating to spirituality and God and studies of that. But the study of science, I guess, isn't it called Scientology? But there's no replacement cosmology, is there, to it? It's like, so you're telling me that we're living on a flat Earth and there's a big wall around, and beyond that we don't know what we're in, like some kind of weird alien test tube or something, or we're really what is it? Are we riding on the back of the great Altuin, the Discworld turtle?
It's basically Terry Pratchett settings, isn't it?
It seems to be, when of course that's just fantasy, but it is fantasy. That's all it is, because there's no explanation. Because I used to do this on the various forums, always trying to deal with these weird people, you know. And it's like, I just don't know. It's like you don't have any way to explain the material universe that we'd actually. Modern science, for all its faults, can actually explain a great deal of our observable material universe. I'm not saying spiritual quantum universe. I'm saying the material observable universe, which science can make deductions and can make inferences and can induce. And that's why we have technology and everything, because I mean, the very fact that we have the very fact that this flat earther is looking at a laptop or is doing technology or is using technology, that's proof that our belief in the reality that around us is true, that the science has got the facts right to some extent, that it can actually make things, it can use the various forces and energies that we have to create technology. And that would be my proof, is look around you, TV, you know, electromagnetic energy, you know, communications, hydraulics, everything is reliant on the fundamental physical laws that we've observed and built up over, you know, maybe a couple of thousand years, and that's all connected to it is part and parcel of the world being round, because all of the various scientific formula and then, you know, Newton and everything, everything's built on that. Yeah, it's so bizarre. Yeah, just don't get it.
But it's kind of like their answer to everything is like they always have an answer to everything, and that answer to everything is, oh, well, this is fake. And it's kind of like such a cop-out answer, because obviously you can just give that answer if you want. But, and unfortunately, kind of like I was saying to you before, it's like, to some degree, you can't necessarily give evidence against that, because I suppose, yes, it could be fake. I mean, like, we don't know for sure. We've not traveled to you know, other galaxies and other solar systems and whatnot, so it's quite easy to say, oh yeah, it's fake. And it's not easy to prove that wrong necessarily, because it's all theory still, because we're very young and we're very early in our existence and understanding of the universe and everything. So yeah, I mean, it just is a very frustrating conversation to have with people, because like, yeah, as much, it just seems as much you can provide that proof, they'll just go, oh well, yeah, well, this is fake, that's fake, and you know, NASA does CGI and blah blah blah. You know, it's very, they're just very annoying debaters.
I know, it's weird. It's just really odd. Ultimately, sadly, I think it's psychologically to explain the flat Earth mentality. I don't know. What do you think? I've got my theory. Maybe my idea might be that there could be a little bit of schizo sort of affective illness, right? I'm not in any way saying, you know, I'm not making any imputations about that, but it just could be a fact. They might be estranged from reality. It could be that they want some kind of escape. It's like a kind of, when you engage in delusions, you kind of have an escape from what's oppressing you. Often retreat into delusion and fantasy is because you're being oppressed by reality or by other factors. It could be that, man. I mean, you know, that could be a more benign explanation. They just want an escape, you know.
That second bit that you just said now was essentially what I was going to reply.
Yeah, wasn't it? Sorry, I stole your thunder. Yeah,
I think a lot of it is that kind of thing, unfortunately. And I just kind of can't wait for the day when we can really realistically send people up there, and then they can see for themselves. I mean, like, you know, even if we show them, you know, they went up with what the Bezos's blue, what was it called? Blue something or other. You know, they sent they sent the celebrities up there, and yeah, we say, oh yeah, everyone will say, oh yeah, that's fake. Okay, fine. Like, until we can get to the point where we're doing proper space tourism, where regularly everyone's going up there, and it's quite easy for everyone to go up there, and it's then well known, and that everyone's taking the pictures and putting them on their bloody social media or whatever, you know, until we get to that point, we don't necessarily have proper proof, quote unquote, as such. So I just look forward to the point where we can just send a load of bloody flat earthers up there and let them see for themselves, you know what I mean? But we're just not quite, we're about, you know, a good 10 years away from that, unfortunately, still.
Yeah, exactly. So,
But we'll go
yeah.
there at some point. That's a nice thought, isn't it? As long as we can survive, as long as we can muddle our way on through life. I mean, True Spoon and Future Shock will at some point go outside, go up and into the low orbit, and that's going to be a fun thing to do when we're a little bit older. Do you know what I mean? That's going to be a hell of a thing to do. I'm
Yeah,
definitely sure that's
probably
going to
low
happen.
orbit is as far as we'll get. Yeah, I mean, do you think? Yeah, I mean, yeah. Oh, well, that's that. I mean, well, we've got another 40? How much longer are we going to be kicking around here, man?
It's
Hopefully,
depressing to think, isn't it? But yeah, we've probably got another 40
it's
years.
like it's almost depressing to think what you might miss out on, but then at the same
Yes.
time, we
Oh,
might miss out on mass drought, solar destruction, and just the end of the world. But then again, we might miss out on the utopia and all the fucking
craziness. Yeah, I
space
mean, no, I had
travel.
this conversation with someone a long time ago, and it was just like it is a bit frustrating. Let's just look at it kind of optimistically and not in terms of like dystopia.
Yeah,
It is unfortunate, like what the future might bring in terms of technological advancement and like cities in low orbit or cities in space or just whatever's going to advance in the earth, on the earth and around the earth and in the solar system. We're going to miss out on that, because we're not going to live long enough to see any of that. And that's kind of sad in a way, because it would be amazing especially for people like us who are really curious and interested in these kind of things. It is sad to think that we will miss out on that, but I don't know. Maybe there's a chance that we won't. Maybe there's a chance that we won't. We don't know what kind of like biological, physiological advancements and enhancements could be made over the next sort of like 30-40 years in which we would expect to still be alive. So
the Elon Musk sort of
all hope is not lost.
Biotechnology, sort of man machine.
Certainly, life extension, this kind of stuff. All hope is not necessarily lost on that front yet.
Yeah, I know, but
mania then.
Yeah, well, okay. So we'll switch over to that. But yeah, I was just quite interested in the idea of Elon Musk's life extension stuff. But yeah,
well, what is he doing? Like, because I know that the Neuralink stuff is quite interesting. I think that's one of the more interesting things that he's doing, because I think that could be something that really sort of like taps into the life extension, because you're looking at how to sort of manipulate the brain and this kind of thing. And it's certainly in terms of like he's looking at like curing blindness, paralysis, things like this. I mean, it's obviously very early days, but then at the same time, the way that things are progressing very quickly in terms, you just have to look at the way AI is progressing and stuff like this. It's like 15 to 20 years from now, it's not out of the question that paralysis can be cured, blindness can be cured, deafness can be cured. I think we're going to be or quite literally sort of like wandering into the realm of this, within our lifetime for sure. So
I don't think all types of paralysis or all types of blindness would in 20 years, because obviously there's types of blindness and paralysis which involve the very, very tiny fibers and neurons which carry the electricity from the around the body up and down the spinal cord and in the brain. So I mean and also sort of blindness as well. I mean, the whole sort of system of the rods and the retina and how your brain creates that, it creates an image from that. And there are obviously types of blindness which can be more easily sort of treated, but I think some types of illnesses some types of things like are hundreds of possibly 100 years away from 50. I mean, this is just guesswork, but what I think though is I reckon there's, because how in space, like all of the planets are so far away from each other, and if a civilization were to achieve light speed travel is impossible for matter anyway, for mass. But the kind of distances between stars are so astronomical that it would take hundreds of years to travel at the highest possible velocities that we have through space. And I always think I think there's a reason for that. And I think it's to keep, it's like a kind of kind of like to keep the like a kind of embargo, like a kind of civilizational embargo where civilizations should not cross across to space and then and travel to a less developed sun and star and then promptly enslave the population. Because could you imagine if we did have, we had interstellar travel, what we'd do with it? It would be the worst. It'd be absolutely a disaster for all the other planets around us, wouldn't it? Who were less developed than we were. It'd be the worst.
I also suppose if we got to that point, then we wouldn't be. Well, I think if we got to that point, there would be less chance of us being, beings that would impose disastrousness on elsewhere. I think we would be advanced to the point where we wouldn't be going to impose disastrousness on elsewhere. I mean, us being able to do that right now on our level of intelligence and our level of civilization, with the sort of things that we've got going on the planet. I think that could be quite potentially poor.
Well, those problems that we have, though, the level of civilization, level of development, is because all of our world leaders and everyone in control is being blackmailed by the Freemasons. I mean, that's the fact of it. That's what's ruling this world. So I think if we did have any sort of space program where we could reach to other stars, I mean, we'd just get a load of like Freemasonic astronauts claiming the land in the name of Israel and say, "Oh, this is not part of Israel. This is part of Israel. Of course, this is the promised people come from here," or some such shit, Yeah,
this is the God's chosen people. God's chosen people are spreading out,
or it would be like the Mormons. They would claim that it's the time of, divine revelation, and the Mormons have received their reward. And I believe the Mormons believe that they will receive a planet of their own, and there'll be a new Adam and Eve. So there'll be a Mormon bloke and presumably some Mormon woman. And they'll have their own planet to themselves. That's what these people believe, and they'll probably do. That's probably what they try and do.
Right. Okay.
I'm not an expert on Mormons, but this is just what I gather they go on about. So I've got the alien stuff here. Here we go. So because this is where I found the quite cool thing about Mount Etna. Oh, it's a slightly different feed. Have you seen these? What is this? Leaked footage of the
I think I've seen this one before. Yeah, I think this is okay. So like craft like this, you don't really know about this kind of stuff in terms of like a lot of this stuff is usually
this is an American top secret project or something.
It's most of the time it's close to bases, isn't it? That's the start.
Oh, okay, interesting. Yeah.
I mean, a lot of the time you find that these are close to some secret like Air Force bases and stuff like this. I mean, that to me is like too obvious over. I mean, it looks like it's a bit too obvious. Like,
does it look convincing to you?
No,
it's a bit too good, isn't it? I don't know.
But I also think that why is it over a city? Like, why is it that obvious? I don't know. I'm not.
My mum saw a UFO though. People do see them. Honestly, I mean, I'm a bit skeptical, but my mum genuinely saw. I mean, I'm skeptical that the UFOs are genuinely aliens. I think that this is some kind of military technology. But my mum saw a UFO on the way to work, and she was with a friend, so they weren't even alone. So
I've seen things that move weirdly in the sky, and I've seen them local to the area where I am at the moment, and we're not particularly close to an Air Force base here. However, having said that, I am in London, so I mean, I don't know, there could be anything around here. Do you know what I mean? So
I don't know what I'm seeing here. This just looks like Star Wars. New AARO footage released, video footage captured by camera by the US military platform in the Middle East in 2024. Did you see that? Oh, it's gone.
That one I haven't seen, the Middle East one. I haven't seen that one before, the little red thing.
A little red R2D2 thing.
Little red pink thing. It's obviously.
I mean, I don't know what that's supposed to be. It could. I mean, do we have to be credulous? We have to trust the source. I mean, I don't really see why we should ever trust the source, but
trust the source of people.
Trust the nice one. Yeah.
And what the hell is that? That's like a sort of what do you call it? Sea urchin type.
It does look like some kind of sea creature. It's absolutely bonkers.
Maria, I've got a mate called Martin De La Rosa. It's not Maria. So that's just anyway. Never mind. But yeah, so go on. Sorry.
So very weird, though. I mean, gosh, yeah, that is. I don't know. That is weird.
That does look odd, to be fair. And that is just AI. Surely that is.
Which one?
The flowers in the Milky Way.
Yeah, that looks like an AI image, doesn't it? Yeah. Obviously, it is because you wouldn't be able to see the colors at night. Yeah. So, okay, listen. Yeah, I tell you what we'll do. We'll play a tune from
you got your tune,
Sandwich Pan. Yeah. It's rather a long song. It's a 13-minute song. It's kind of epic and ace. And when we look at this weird stuff, I mean, what the flip is all this? What even is that? Does that look real to you? Compilation of some weird so-called shape-shifting UFOs.
These days it's so hard to know, isn't it? What is
it looks like AI. It must be AI images, man. Do you know what I mean?
It's hard to say, isn't it? Because you just don't know you just don't know if it is or not. That's the problem.
Yeah, well, okay. I mean, you could, yeah, sure, okay. The thing is, you used to get them cranks who would use binoculars or a telescope, and they would they would focus the binoculars or the telescope on a distant star or on a planet, and because they hadn't focused the telescope properly, or they defocused it, they would see this weird shape, and they would say, "Oh, that's an alien." So, did you remember that stuff? Do you remember that weird stuff? There was. I wonder if I can find that now. I could have a look afterwards. It was like the true star, and it was because they didn't know how to use a binocular, a telescope properly, so that it got defocalized, and it had all these sort of what they were looking at was the inside of the telescope, like where it holds the mirror. And I actually pointed out on many times on the Ike forum, because there's so many fucking lunatics used to be on there. And I said, no, what you're seeing inside. I mean, I hate to be rude, but literally, there's no excuse. And what is annoying, and I think that's what annoys you about the flat Earth people, is that they don't want to know. They won't listen to your explanation, and your explanation is completely logical and rational, and they just don't want to know. And it's so annoying when people just don't want to hear reality because they feel it deprives them of, or because they're pride, because they think, oh, I got swindled. I'm not going to believe what you're saying. I'm just going to go deeper into delusion.
Yeah, and it's almost as if just have the conversation. I mean, it's not that you and me have. I'm sure you've. Okay, I don't want to speak for you or for any of the viewers or whatever, but I've had things that I've had an opinion on, and I've spoken to people, and I've had intelligent conversations, and I've changed my mind. It is okay to change your mind. That doesn't make you any less of a person. Sometimes you don't have all the information, and someone can come along, and you might not necessarily, you're not being an idiot, you're not being retarded or whatever, but sometimes just somebody comes along who kind of helps guide you in the right direction and focus on other things that you weren't aware of, or makes you aware of things that you didn't know about. So it's okay, and that's okay. That's good. That's part of learning and growing. And it's but what you're saying, and which I agree with, is these people are very much they put up the barriers to that they have their opinion, and they are absolutely refusing to introduce any other or accept any other kind of information that may be slightly contradictory, or maybe just kind of interesting, even that's new interesting information, and they don't want to hear it, basically. And it's like we've said before on this show, there's a lot of this kind of fingers in the ears. No, I don't want to hear it. It's that kind of stupid shit.
Yeah, I found what I'm looking for. So can you see the picture? Can you see this?
Yeah, the donut-shaped object.
People used to post pictures of this. Oh, they say, "Look, this is a UFO." I saw this looking in my telescope.
It's like the metal Cheerio.
Yeah, metal Cheerio.
The bar eats, and then
there's loads of them, but it's clearly not a UFO.
It looks like a star, isn't it? It's a star.
Well,
that's what some of the other photos are saying as well. Because that's
well, they used to post these pictures on the Ike forum, and they would say, this is what a star really looks like, or this is a UFO. And I would say, no, what that is you've just defocused your telescope, because the bit inside is like, that's like the mirror or something. And it's like you're seeing the inside of the baffling of the lens and that kind of stuff.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So look, this is what a real star looks like through a telescope. See, absolute bollocks. No, it does. That's what a defocused star looks like through a defocused. You fucking idiot. But I don't know. I mean, I'm almost glad that we've just got all this censorship now, because there's a lot fewer people talking bollocks. But it used to be annoying.
That is true, because I remember, I think maybe the one that you're just sort of going off on, like, so that one in the middle there that almost looks like a pill.
Paracetamol.
Yeah, that is very reminiscent of what was the first kind of star that I saw through my telescope when I was younger. I used to have a telescope. I used to so for obviously, like, listeners that don't know, I grew up in the countryside, and there were very clear skies, and I was blessed to be able to see like some very very clear skies at night, especially in summertime. And I had a telescope, and when I first started looking at the stars, or a star like this, like the North Star, for example. No, the North Star doesn't quite look exactly like that, to be fair, but it has more of a different color to it. But yeah, it's got that kind of look to it. So these are kind of what stars, like you said, they're not focused properly.
Yeah.
But like that's kind of what they look like through the telescope when you're trying to focus it.
Yeah, well, exactly. Yeah. So there's one more, which I just want to show this. I mean, I don't really know why I'm bothering with this, but it's just, I suppose we got onto a bit about people being just afraid of just in delusion and escaping from reality. And my belief is the flat earth thing is part of that. But we got this picture. There it is. Yeah. So this one is pretty good, because this is someone's posted this. What did they say? Weird. Oh, why does Jupiter look like this through my telescope?
What do you expect it to look like?
Well, you can see that there's 3 arms, and they're holding the black thing in the middle, which is where the mirror is. So that's just, you've just defocused your telescope, so you're seeing what's inside the telescope. So yeah. So anyway, so at least that's been put to bed. The world's a better place now. We can all sleep safe and sound. What we'll do is we'll take a break for like the 30-minute track, which is a totally awesome track, and we'll come back and talk about quantum computing. What do you think?
Yeah, let's do it, and we'll get in. Yep, that's it. That's fine.
All right, hang on. I just need to do a bit more fiddling. Hang on, let me just fiddle, tumble
and fiddle away.
Tumble and fiddle and get bombarded by solar rays. Yeah, that's it. It's my life, I guess. Right, life of being a human.
It's unavoidable.
Yeah. Yeah, well, I mean, most people are in happy ignorance of the fact, but yeah, some of us have to bear this burden and knowledge burden, isn't it? It's all good fun, eh? It's all good fun.
It's all good in the hood.
Yeah, all right. I'm gonna hopefully just let us know if you can hear this FS before I'll play it if it'll work. Can you hear that?
I am. Yeah, I'm hearing it. Yeah, it started at 56 seconds though. To be fair.
No, I know. I'm just jumping in, but is the volume okay?
Yeah, it's fine. It's fine.
All right, I'm just gonna. This is what 13 minutes long. We can take a break. We're gonna get the second part of the show ready. So everyone, I've just listened to this music, have a cup of tea, or whatever you fancy. All right, cheerio. Let's go.
In a bit.
Yeah, in a bit. Yeah. Here we go. Okay, FS, are you there, bro?
Here, yeah.
Yeah, I'll just So reports that the music is not playing. Apparently,
Well, it wasn't to me, but
and
I
it isn't.
know now. Was it to you?
Ah,
Was it
right.
playing for you? It's playing. I can hear it now that you've sort of unmuted. Maybe was it? Maybe it's because you're muted. I don't know. Oh, could it? I'm not sure. What's going on? I can still hear music now, though. I can hear music now.
Can you hear it now? That's weird. Because I just checked the YouTube and BitChute, and there didn't seem to be any music playing. Can you hear it now?
Now I can't hear it. But we
did.
Funnily enough, we doubled our listeners. What doesn't make any sense.
I think we got more listeners when we stopped talking. I think they're actually it's our chat drives people away. It's when we shut the fuck up that people actually want a bit of peace, I guess. God, did you hear that little snatch of music though?
I heard I heard it at the end there. Yeah.
All right, I'll just do it again. I'll just do it. 3, 2, 1.
Yeah, I can hear that.
Done. Did you hear that?
Yep.
That's fucking weird. That's really
no problems. Well,
this is flipping weird, man. Did you hit? Okay, let's try this. Oh, that's so annoying. Can you hear it?
Obviously,
3, 2, 1. I need to test it if you can hear it. So just 3, 2, 1, go.
I can hear it. Yeah.
Hear that?
Yeah.
That worked that time. I don't get it, man.
We've almost tripled in that time. We've almost tripled our listeners. so
someone must have heard it, man.
Enjoyed this since we've not.
Can someone tell us in the chat if you could hear that track? We'd love to know because it's Because otherwise, we've doubled our listeners just based on 13 minutes of silence, which is
almost.
Maybe people come. Maybe that's what people are waiting for. We just shut up and they can just have a bit of peace and quiet. But it's just. But anyway, whatever.
So what we're missing out on.
Whatever gets the people coming in,
We should just basically have a channel where it's just silence. It's just a place where people can just chill out and like have no noise or any. We're missing a trick here. This is the thing. Like, everyone thinks you need to speak and play music and chat all the time, and actually you just need to have.
You could like thousands of people just gathered in silence, like some kind of massive Quaker meeting or something like that.
Also, I can't because. So I think we need to log in. Oh, hang on a second.
Right, I'm
trying to see how to see the actual chat if we were actually having a chat. So I'm not logged in.
Oh,
so obviously I can see I can see the private chat.
Okay, there's nothing in the comments. So yeah, we've got comments.
So hang on. So if I click on this, okay, all right, okay, yeah, okay. So never mind. Yeah. So anyway. So quantum computing was something we were going to talk about, and there's been a bit of like misunderstanding. I think you were saying about this, or like at least a sort of interpretation, or
it's like your mate Joe Rogan. I mean, you're a bit of a Joe Rogan fan, aren't you? I know he's not literally your mate, but everyone likes Joe Rogan, unless you're lefty, but. Yeah,
look, the guy, he's not perfect, is he? Like, he doesn't know everything about everything, but at least he fucking tries to, get to the bottom of things. You know what I mean?
I know, but the thing is, I've got a bit of a bone to pick with him really about quantum computing because he's on with poor Julian Lennon, and he asks Julian Lennon what he thinks about quantum computing, and poor Julian Lennon doesn't know fuck all. But what it is, I mean, I'll play this clip of Joe Rogan. And I think so many people play Joe Rogan clips that they don't get copyright. And there's so many Joe Rogan channels. I don't think he busts anyone's balls for playing his stuff.
Yeah. No, of course not. No, yeah, play it. It's cool, man. It's cool.
Give us a second to find it. No, where a flip it's gone. It's disappeared. Hang on. Well, anyway, listen. Just do you just want to give Phil? What was you followed Joe Rogan more than me? What were some of his? Like, what kind of things what kind of some of his best guests and what does he go on about generally?
One of my favorite guests of his was the guy who was the mushroom guest. Obviously, everyone anyone who's been tuning into this show for a few times will know that, I'm a bit of a mushroom fan and so is True Spoon in to some degree. But, I was trying to think of
it's been a long time since I've had mushrooms, though, man. Long time.
I was trying to think of
and the last time wasn't a good time. I was in Amsterdam. and that was when they sold
Paul
mushrooms.
Stamets, that's the guy. I didn't even need to look it up. So Paul Stamets had an interesting story about mushrooms, in the terms that he had like a sort of premonition type thing, and I've had like two-way hallucinations before on mushrooms, and it's been quite interesting. So Stamets is an interesting guy to listen to. But look, as we know, like Joe Rogan has, the good thing about Joe Rogan is that he just has a very like an actual properly, this is a very buzzword these days, but diverse. He does actually have a genuinely diverse like range of guests on, and like he is prepared to talk to lots of different people, and like I still think that applies these days, even though maybe he isn't as, I don't know, independent thinking as maybe he used to be. You found your, so what is this, Google?
Didn't he used to be, was he ever a lefty? Because he's only sort of become like a slightly right-wing figure recently, I believe, right?
He still says he is, doesn't he? Yeah.
Oh, is that right? Oh, that's interesting.
He still claims to be a left-winger.
Right.
Yeah, he's more associated with right-wing or centre-right type thinking now.
Well, it's just because the left don't engage. I mean, the right speak, they'll talk. It was like Kamala Harris wanted to be on, didn't she? But he's got a 3-hour show, and he sort of stipulated you have to do 3 hours. And she just wanted to do her one. She couldn't manage 3 hours because she doesn't think for herself. She's like,
well, not only that though, that she wanted him to come to her as well.
Oh, is that right? Yeah.
So what they wanted to do with Kamala Harris was they wanted Joe to fly over to wherever she was going to be, and they wanted to only do an hour. And he was like, well, no, everyone comes here to me, and we do like 2-3 hours. And so then it fell through because she wouldn't do it. So, which I think was a big mistake for her. I mean, like for the sake of doing that, I think what would have been massively beneficial for her.
No, but the thing is, people like Kamala Harris, and they're not people who can naturally and frankly and honestly engage. They can't. She's someone who has to watch what she's saying, and she has to make sure she's always saying the right thing. She can't be spontaneous and natural like Trump can. I mean, that's one of the great things about Donald Trump. He can do that.
Well, did you watch it? Did you watch the
people like the phony plastic politicians like Keir Starmer, and they can't be real. They're not real people. Do you know what I mean?
Did you watch his interview with Trump? I thought it was quite a good interview, to be honest with you.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I saw bits of it. That was a while ago now, wasn't it? But yeah, no, it's all good.
Just before the election, I mean, I thought Trump came across pretty well, to be honest with you. I mean, like, I know what people say, and then I get the issues that there are with Trump. I do get that there are issues. I'm not trying to deny that, but I think he came across very well in the interview, and I think so did JD Vance as well. Not that I'm a massive fan necessarily, but I think they both came across really well in a 3-hour interview, and that's kind of the point, isn't it? That like they can, like what you just alluded to, sit down.
They're real people. They're actually they call that conviction politicians. That was the great thing that people loved Thatcher for that back in the day, right? Because she was a real. She seemed like she believed in what she was saying. Do you know what I mean? That's basically it. Kamala Harris doesn't believe anything. Keir Starmer doesn't believe anything she's saying. Do you know what I mean? Keir Starmer flip-flopped from one week to the next about the issue of immigration. And did you know they did that? He made that speech about immigration, and it's a 180-degree turn on mass immigration and everything like that. Do you remember that? That was he was called a racist for it, actually, because he was basically saying things that people would have been put in prison for if they said it on Facebook. Saying
exactly.
This experiment has not necessarily been entirely successful, etc. You say that on Facebook, and you can have the police knock on your door at 4 a.m.
But he's allowed to say it, right? Now, people are like saying that, Starmer is now saying that the stuff that he was arresting people for 2 months ago.
Exactly.
It was such an obvious 180 turn.
Yeah,
it was just so obviously fake.
So transparent, fake. Yeah, just because of the success of reform in the local elections, and it was fake. Exactly, it's not what he believes. No one. The only thing I'm not going to talk too much about what he's into because anyway, you can guess right what I'm going to say.
We have leeway to talk about this kind of stuff, by the way. But
not too much actually. But on the other BitChute and X probably fine. But yeah, YouTube, anyway. But yeah, I'm not going to say too much about Keir Starmer because he's so repulsive and foul. And anyway. But we will change the subject, and that's probably one of the reasons we do this podcast, isn't it? Really, and talk about quantum computing and talk about space and science and tech and weirdness and ghosts and whatever, because it's sort of an escape, isn't it? Future Shock from that quagmire of politics. Do you know what I mean? When you start,
and also it's kind of an approach into sort of what we would like to talk about. Like, I mean, we want these things are interesting. These things are things that we would hope that people are interested in. We hope that people want to talk more about, and like that can kind of further a bit of a general heightening of intelligence, maybe in people. You know, we're trying to help people, like trying to sort of like further that conversation, which isn't really had much, you know.
So anyway, poor Joe Rogan's burning a hole in my screen right there. So I'm going to play this in a minute. I'd written a couple of articles about quantum computing last Christmas time, and I spent a couple of weeks putting them together. And things change so fast in quantum computing, but essentially the bullshit is the same, and the scam is the same, and it is a scam to a very large extent. And it's a shareholder-based scam where they're just trying to constantly inflate and increase the share price of quantum computing stocks, because very few people understand what quantum computing is, and secondly, or B, if you want, there's like no application for it really at the moment. So I'd written 2 articles. I'm going to shamelessly promote them after this bit, and one of them was an article about what's in the box, because no one knows what's in the box, and the other one was called Quantum Confuser: The State of Quantum Computing. But as usual, there's no shortage of hyperbolic rhetoric and bullshit pseudoscience about it, by people who should know better, or by people who are just trying to inflate the share price of Google or Google AI technology, whatever. So Joe Rogan, however, bless him, is probably not one of those people. He's like one of the people who's getting sucked into the hype because he doesn't really know, and of course he wouldn't expect to know what quantum computing really is all about. I mean, the thing is, Joe Rogan, he's got such a broad palette, hasn't he? FS, he's got so many different interests and talks about everything. So he can't focus on spending. He can't spend months finding out what quantum computers.
Yeah, he's not going to get sort of like dive into the minutiae of everything.
No. Of everything he goes into. No, exactly. I mean, the thing is, Joe Rogan, he's a listener, isn't he? He's a good listener. He listens to his guests. But this is a weird one because for some reason on this show with Julian Lennon, he brings poor Julian Lennon in who hasn't got a clue about quantum computing, but he very gamely tries to respond. I'm just going to play this bit now from 48 seconds to 133 to 1 minute 33. Right. So let's go with this. You tell me what you think about what Rogan's saying, and then we'll take it from there. Yeah. So,
but the idea is that they're pulling answers from different universes simultaneously. They don't even completely understand how this is working.
Can you just check you can hear that? Is that okay?
I can hear it, yeah.
Oh, okay.
But the amount of power in computing is incomprehensible. Yeah. Like you're only looking at it and there's numbers, you could write all those numbers out, but your brain's not capable of grasping really what's going on. Yeah. And it's probably the biggest breakthrough technologically in human history by a long stretch. And it's all happening without most people even being aware of what the implications are.
So yeah, I mean,
what you see about different universes.
Like, exactly. Well, that's the focus. That's the key thing that he's talking about. Yeah, I mean, have you ever heard that before? Quantum computing is now being associated with somehow taking computing power or answers from other universes. How does that strike you?
Well, I was gonna because you have a better understanding of it than me. I was gonna ask you about that and say what do you think of that? Because I mean, how? So where is he getting that from? How is?
There you go. That's a good question. So I'm going to skip on a little bit. He does have a source for this, and he does quote it. The thing is, Joe Rogan, what's happening here is he's quoting someone who is supposed to be an expert, and that expert is called, what's his name? Hart McNevin, who is Google Quantum AI's founder. Hart McNevin. He founded Google Quantum AI in 2012. So he's quoting Hart McNevin. It's not. My internet's gone a bit shit. Oh, hang on. Oh, there we go.
How it works.
Here we are. So now he's going to try and figure out. He's going to ask his studio hand how quantum computing works. So let's just listen to this bit here.
Right.
Jamie,
what is the definition of how it works?
Yeah, Jamie. Is it Jamie? Jamie. Who is it?
Yeah, he's Jamie. Like Jamie knows about quantum computing. Jamie's not a quantum computing
definition of how it works.
I know. He asked Julian Lennon about it later, which is really hilarious.
Right. Yeah. What is the definition of how it works? The way it pulls from multi universes.
I think I'm trying to find it, but I think the understanding I got from it was it's just too powerful to get from our universe alone. You'd have to have more than one, and I don't like. That's just.
That answer seems. Yeah, his understanding is that it's you have to have more than one universe to get the answer out of or something. But
I don't know.
Well, this can lead us into something else about multiple universes we can discuss in a sec. But anyway, we'll leave that for a sec.
Hang on. Yeah, so there is. I'm actually going to go into the detail of it though. Just going to do a bit more because I know Joe Rogan won't do as what he won't do as a copy.
Well, he ain't going to start targeting us now.
He's not going to get us, so we'll just have a bit more of him.
He's probably he would probably be like
what is that?
Yeah. What was that?
I would say that Joe Rogan, he's never going to see that we're doing this, but even if he did, he would probably quite like the fact that we're exploring this. Do you know what I mean?
Well, there's loads of Joe Rogan clips. This is. Oh, is this an official Joe Rogan website? It is. It might be.
I'm not sure.
Maybe not. I know, right?
Paid subscribers. It's not too bad.
Yeah, they're all getting monetized, so then they can't be being busted by him. So I'll just play a bit more of this. So, KFS, yeah.
Go for it. Yeah.
That thing that they have, and if you ever seen the chip itself is very small.
You just heard Julian Lennon sighing in the background, like, "What the fuck has this got to do with me?"
What to do about this?
I know, right? He's just sighing in the back. I thought it was you initially, and then I realized it's Julian Lennon. He's like sighing. What? Oh, please, I don't. Oh, it's gonna make. And unfortunately, poor Julian, he doesn't have a clue. But
yeah. It's like the size of a saltine cracker.
Yeah.
And then this entire mechanism around it is just the insane amount of cooling. Okay. Google.
All right. Oh, yeah.
Google's quantum AI founder said the performance gains lead.
So he's actually now going to quote an article by, as I said, Google AI's Nimrod, Hatat Nimrod, or whatever his name is. I'm just going to bring that article up, actually. The article itself, so instead of hearing it from, we can actually see it. So excuse me a minute, right?
Yeah, go for it. Oh. We could get into because I want to get into as a branch off from this after this.
Yeah,
get into a little bit about multiverse chat because there's a few things we could talk about with that. But anyways, yeah, go on. Sorry.
No, okay. This is the yes. Okay. You want to talk about multiverses? Is that what you would?
Well, yeah, we'll get talk about.
We'll lead into that. It leads into that very nicely.
Later on.
Yeah. So this is the article, December 9th, 2024, by Hart McNevin. He's on his own blog. He couldn't even get a custom URL, so he's blog.google. You'd think someone, with his position would be a bit, bit cooler, a bit more effort, but apparently he's low effort. So yeah, he's got blog Google/technology. Anyway, enough waffle. Listen. Our new chip. This is the Willow chip. This is the state-of-the-art quantum chip. Blah blah blah. The key bullshit is
10 septillion.
The key bullshit is I'll have to find it because I've typed it out. So I'll just find the bullshit. Give us a sec. Yeah.
Anyone who's listening, by the way, remember to hit the like button on YouTube. Hit the like button. We appreciate that. It helps the channel. Helps grow the channel. So yeah, like and subscribe. Helps grow the channel. We appreciate it very much.
And comment as well, please. Yeah, please do.
Well. Yeah,
if you can hear that song that we played, that we didn't know if it was, we didn't know. Otherwise, it's a cracking tune by the great band Sandwich Pan, and that song was that song that you probably didn't even hear. It's called Into the Sun, but We'll play it again sometime.
I wonder if it was something to do with being mute. But anyway, not to worry. Well, the thing
is, but we were muted, but
we basically tripled listeners at that point. Yeah. So I mean, maybe we should.
Silence seems to be something what they come here for. Yeah, they come here for us not to talk, which is a different kind of approach, right? Yeah. So anyway, listen, I'll read the quote out. So
exponential quantum error correction. Fucking hell.
Willow's performance.
That's a hell of a sentence, isn't it? 10 septillion years on one of today's fastest computers. 10 septillion years, you know? That's a lot of years.
There it is. Yeah, that's the quote. Here we are. Can you see the screen here?
Look at
you see that? All in zeros. Right, okay. Now, this is where Joe Rogan is getting his ideas that somehow we need multiple universes. So apparently the calculation is so complicated, one universe isn't enough to solve it or something. So it's pulling, apparently, according to Joe Rogan, bless him, it's pulling information or pulling answers out of another universe, or not just one, but millions potentially. But anyway, this is the quote where it's based on. Like, Willow's performance on the benchmark is astonishing. It performed a computation in under 5 minutes that would take one of today's fastest supercomputers 10 to the power 25 or 10 septillion years. So what the key thing here, though, it lends credence to the notion that quantum computation occurs in many parallel universes. In line with the idea that we live in a multiverse, a prediction first made by David Deutsch. So all of that stuff that Joe Rogan was saying and confusing and bamboozling Jamie and Julian Lennon with, it's just this. It lends credence to the notion that quantum computation occurs in many parallel universes in line with the ideas first made by David Deutsch. Now, the thing is, what that is, it's a misunderstanding, or it's potentially a misrepresentation of multiverse theory and how that really works. It's it's a little bit complicated. So there's two interpretations of quantum mechanics. There's the Copenhagen interpretation, which is that when you collapse the wave function by observing it. Have you ever heard of that? FS?
Yeah, I've heard of the Copenhagen theory. I just literally spilt a load of this fucking tequila. Sorry. Please continue. I'm just wiping up at the moment.
No, well, you're going to be my sort of everyman, because you're going to be my everyman, because if you understand it, then it means my listeners understand it.
No, I've heard of the Copenhagen. I heard about Sean Carroll. Sean Carroll is a very decent, in my opinion, quantum physicist explainer. He has some ideas that I don't necessarily agree with. He's a proponent of the many worlds theory. I did actually.
Excellent. Good stuff.
Have you heard of this guy? Do you know about he had a very controversial debate with Piers Morgan and Eric Weinstein recently. I don't know if you saw this.
No, I didn't, and I've not heard of it.
Have a little look at this. Yeah. I'll send you the link after the show.
Please.
But yeah, they did an hour on Piers Morgan randomly had like these two quantum physicists, and like they battled it out essentially. And Piers Morgan.
Hey, now that sounds totally cool, because that's just
Piers Morgan is just in the middle, like, I don't know what the fuck is going on. But like, Sean Carroll is a very interesting person to listen to. He has that ability, kind of like you have the ability, to explain these kind of complicated theories in a more simplified manner. They're quite like natural teachers. He's like a natural teacher, sort of like to the same degree that you are. So. I'll send you the link anyway afterwards. Sorry, go on. Go on. Sorry.
Oh, you've been far too generous with me there, FS. And I'm sorry I called you my everyman. You're obviously not an everyman, but it's like, if I'm just saying this stuff out to myself, I know what it is because I've looked it up and spent ages trying to understand it. But when you ask someone if they, without being patronizing, if they understand, do you know what I mean? And then you can,
you mean. I'm not like offended.
Yeah. It's like if you if you can explain something to someone else, then you can understand. Then it's clear you understand it yourself. If you can't explain it, so yeah, the Copenhagen interpretation is basically the idea that the observer creates the reality around them. So we live in a quantum flux, and by observing it, we collapse the wave function, and then reality kind of appears. And that's what I believe. I mean, that's what is borne out by observation, in my opinion. That's the majority view, to be honest with you. That was the standard view of quantum mechanics. It was the work of Niels Bohr, Werner Heisenberg, the actual legends of the formators of quantum mechanics itself believed in this view. So, as you said, as you pointed out, the alternative, the opposing view is the many worlds view, isn't it? So that thing with Sean Carroll, so Sean Carroll, was he in favor of the Copenhagen interpretation, or was he many worlds?
As far as I'm aware, Sean Carroll was one of the main proponents of the many worlds theory.
Interesting.
He did appear on Joe Rogan's show. He's been on Joe Rogan's show about 3 times, I believe now.
Right.
But yeah, he has explained the many worlds theory numerous times. I don't know if I don't know what I think about the many. I'm interested by the many worlds theory because obviously I'm interested by all of this. The many worlds theory is I don't know what statement to make about it, because it's a very difficult theory to make a statement about, I suppose, for someone like me who isn't necessarily, that sort of learned on all of this. But it's interesting, and I the way he was explaining it, for people who don't know for people who are listening who don't know what the many worlds theory is, number one, I would recommend you listen to Sean Carroll talking about this. Could go onto YouTube and search for him talking about it. But basically, what he's saying is that there is there's a kind of an infinite number of ways that your reality manifests. Or it kind of like transgresses, and there's like an infinite number of worlds in which an infinite number of kind of like subsequences of your conversations and your actions manifest. So it's not just one thing that manifests. There's an infinite number of things. Now, for me, there is a bit of like truth to that, in the sense that I've always thought that there's more likelihood to be, I think it's more likely that there's an infinite number of possibilities than one. I think that the idea that there's one outcome of everything is not as likely as an infinite number of things, if that makes some kind of sense. I think for me, it makes more sense that there's an infinite number of possibilities of everything that could potentially happen versus there being one possibility. I don't know if I've explained that very well, but like I just feel that like there's an infinite amount of possibilities is way more likely than there just being one. So there's just one universe, there's just one outcome of our realities and our interactions and all this kind of stuff. I feel that it's probably more likely that there's an infinite number of them if you're going to sort of like square it off against each other.
I kind of disagree, because I think infinity doesn't kind of really exist in the 3-dimensional world. It's something that is beyond, is in the next. You have eternity, infinity in the 4th dimension, I would say. But I think the problem with that is, if you say you have an infinite number of universes, you're just going to have chaos, because I look at our world. Our world is kind of everything kind of.
I mean it in 4 dimensions. Right? I'm talking in 4 dimensions. I'm not talking. Okay, yeah. To clarify, I'm making that statement based on a 4-dimensional construct rather than 3-dimensional, I suppose.
Yeah, but a universe is sort of 3-dimensional. So I mean, obviously, the light, the energy of that universe is the 4-dimensional aspect. It's the energy. It's the quantum mechanics. It's quantum realm. It's the photons. That's the 4-dimensional aspect. But the material world, the humans, the animals, the plants, blah blah blah. Of course, it's got the 4-dimensional life inside it, but it's 3-dimensional. But look, let me future shock. Just hear me out. Listen a minute, right? Yeah. Our world around us, right? Apart from the madness in the Middle East and the people and the Freemasons and all that kind of evil stuff, which is insane, because they've got the network and they've managed to find a way to twist our world, right? Everything kind of makes sense. So the natural world makes sense. Animals make sense. Animals look like what they do. They work properly. Giraffe's neck is long. It can get the leaves, that kind of stuff. The tiger's stripes, camouflage, or whatever. I can't remember quite why black and white zebras are black and white. I don't know, but it was a good reason for it, I'm sure. But it makes sense. It does make sense. But if you're going to have like infinite, you're going to have a many worlds theory, and then presumably an infinite universes, you're going to have universes where it's like you've got like it's nonsense. You're going to have like crazy stuff. You're going to have like a giraffe with like 2 heads and 3 arseholes. I mean, it's like,
this is the thing that worries. This is the thing that I get about it. I absolutely understand that, because like infinity means there's just absolutely every single infinite amount of everything.
Yeah, exactly.
But I just can't go back to, like, at the same time, it's like, what is more weird seeming, that there's an infinite amount of things, or there's just like sort of a strict amount of things? I don't know.
Well, isn't one universe enough though? I mean, we don't even know how big this universe is for a start. So, and how many stars there are and galaxies, it's insane. I mean, if you've seen the James Webb pictures of the galaxies just look like stars at this point. There's so many of them that it's almost
kind of like, as well. Like, I think that what they say, that like there's we think there's 200 trillion galaxies that we can observe. That's in the observable universe, and the observable universe is only about 1% of all we can observe.
Yeah.
So God only knows. You can do those 200 trillion by about 100x, and then people want to tell me there's no aliens. Okay, there's no aliens.
No, I mean, listen, no one's. Yeah, I mean,
I'm not saying that you're saying that. I know that you're not saying that.
There's life. Yeah. Well, my issue is whether they've interacted with us. That's debatable. I still think that's debatable, but
Yeah, I mean, well, we can get into that a little bit later, but I mean, it's like the way. I understand, that it's very. We're sort of delving into realms where it's kind of like it's very difficult to understand like what infinity can potentially mean, but I don't think we can necessarily rule it out. That's all I'm trying to say, like, because I don't think our brains and our understanding are really even necessarily capable of understanding what infinity might actually mean.
Okay. So listen, it's like, what would be, I think we've had this conversation before, but what would be the most efficient way to create reality? And it's the same way that video games work. And it's called player instances, where instead, this is what the Copenhagen interpretation says, that how the universe works. And that the universe, right? We've observed so many times how you have various encoded number sequences. What are they? The Fibonacci sequence.
Yeah.
What's the spiral one? Is that the one that makes the spiral?
Right? Yeah.
So you've got all of these. This very simple. What these are? They're seed number sets, right? And they create the various growth patterns of nature, and they're just they're number sequences. So you have all of these sort of seeds, which are sort of ratios. Those ratios are simply ratios, and that ratio continues and it grows into whatever it is, like a CNN, whatever, a seed shells, a sea thing's shell, or a tree, or the way the leaves radiate out from the branches. That's all based on numerical sequences. So that's efficient, right? So you look at something like the way that the honeybee can maximize the space with the cells, the hexagonal cells, they're the perfect shape to maximize, right? All that stuff, right? So we can observe so many times that nature is efficient, and and quantum physics, quantum computing, it uses there's a system called quantum annealing, which uses the principle of ground state energy, which is where nature always uses the lowest energy solution to a problem. So it's always that's a fundamental rule. That is a rule of nature, that the lowest energy state is how nature will grow, or will reproduce, or will create. So that coincides with the idea of so-called player instances. Do you know what I mean by that? Like a video game, like like a space game, or an open world game. The whole game isn't created. The whole world of the game, the whole map isn't available. It's only the in-memory of the computer or whatever. It's only what you're interacting with at that time that is there. That's obvious, isn't it?
As you encounter it, sort of thing. And
yeah.
It's kind of like, it could be, I mean, it could be that like it's sort of designed that way to kind of like, I don't know exactly how to sort of like word it, but it is kind of like very similar to how people will create these kind of like massive like universes in computer games and stuff like this.
Exactly.
I mean, but also at the same time, we're talking about things that are real. We're not talking about things that are quote unquote real.
Well, exactly. How real is reality? I mean, if you can put on a VR headset, and at this relative level of technology, you can have an experience that you actually, I've got a VR headset, I love it, and it is the most incredible thing in the world. It's like, it's like they can reproduce reality. It can fool your senses into believing, into making you scream when like a head crab fires itself at you, because you're literally in sort of mortal terror. It's because you sort of, it's not real. You're playing a game, but there's part of you that it is real. There's a certain part of you for whom it is real. And if we can create that with very relatively simple technology, which I still think we have simple technology, I still consider our technology level. If we can recreate, a perception of a world using simple, light-based headsets, just how much more, unreal is this so-called real universe? It's for me, it's the same. It's like as if we're here with invisible headsets strapped onto us, and then when we die, the headset's removed, and
Look, it seems pretty real. Like you can knock on, like I'm sat here, I've got like this little wooden desk here, like it seems pretty real, right?
Yeah, but famously that's all empty space. That's just energy that's making that table appear solid. It's just charge between.
Which is what I'm saying. So it's kind of like there's the interaction of my fist onto the table. That is an interaction, and that is kind of like this essentially quote unquote solid area is something that's not necessarily as real as you would think it to be.
Yeah, if you could see that as it really was, it would be 99% empty space. That's so-called solid space.
Empty space, and it would be kind of like to some degree vibrating, and it would be like
exactly. In fact, it's the vibration that's actually making you believe it's real. I mean, it is real, obviously, but it's that vibration of it. It's that energetic vibration that's making it feel solid. But that's like it's just
giving you the impression. But then there's kind of like when I've said to you before about like, say for example, like me and Truth Spoon have talked about my lucid dreaming experiences before, and I've spoken very candidly about how they are absolutely as real seeming as what you would call reality, wakeful reality, being awake and experiencing reality. Those things seem as real as that. And so it gets to the point where you think, well, hang on, if wakeful reality seems X% real, and these lucid dreams seem equally X% real, then you start to ask the question, which one is the real one?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Because if A, which is the dream, is as real as B, which is apparently being awake and real reality, if they're exactly the same feeling, which one is the real one?
Well, you can't tell when you're in. You can very rarely tell when you're in a dream that you're dreaming. You can't. When you're awake, you can't often remember facts of your dream, and when you're dreaming, you can't often remember facts of your real life. But the thing is, the point is, the difference between dreaming and being awake, right? The only difference, well, there's a few, but the point about being awake and the waking reality is that it doesn't change, right? So when you come back and you wake up, you see the same things every day. You just as ostensibly you thought you left them the night before. So it's that unchanging nature of this three-dimensional reality that makes it sort of become, you sort of believe it's more real because it's more unchanging, because it's solid, because it's permanent, because it's continuous, and it sort of seems more reliable. Whereas the dream consciousness it's not in any way, unless you're having a recurring dream, you've got completely mayhem and madness and all sorts going on.
Then also there can be dream experiences which are as reliable when you're continuously going back into the same dream. And
that's a recurring dream. That's what I meant. I never had that. Had you ever experienced those?
I literally had that last night. I mean, like I was literally coming out of the dream and like going back into the same exact spot in the dream. Like I was trying to, like, it was explained to me, it was kind of in the dream, like it was me being in quote unquote Seville in Spain. I'm not going to explain the entire story, but anyway, there was a big like background story to it anyway. I was constantly going back into the dream. So, but yes, of course, that's still in of itself like that's still a temporary kind of reality. It's not the same reality as, coming back into this and sitting here, being in front of the computer, being in front of the screens, then going to work, or then going to the gym, or going to the shops, or whatever. I understand that it's different. However, it may not be so different because, there is still a consistency. It's just a more temporary consistency in that other realm. Now, that temporary consistency may not be less real than this. It may just be temporary as such. So I don't know. I find it's very interesting. Now, a lot of dreams are not like that. So not a lot of dreams are ostensibly dreams and, not quote unquote real or whatever. But those lucid experiences, like, it does make you question what is the structure of this reality that I'm experiencing that is consistent. I'm experiencing this consistent reality whilst I'm awake here talking to you now, or whether I'm doing something else. Yes, it's more consistent. Yes, it has more, I suppose, time attached to it. It has more hours and time attached to it.
Oh yeah, it has all these measurements, doesn't it? Everything's measured. It's reliable. You can time it. It's got scientific laws. You know what I mean? You can measure the laws. You can predict it. So in that respect, yeah, it's much more reliable, and yeah, it's in that respect. It's more real because for those reasons, it's predictable. You can make things happen. You can manipulate that world. Whereas the dream world is much more elusive to sort of quantify, right?
I guess my point would be, like, when you have those really lucid dreams, is there that much of a so the only difference is really the fact that you do go back into the wakeful reality and it's more prolonged, it's more measured, but that thing that you go into the lucid dream is kind of almost as measurable, but just on a shorter quote unquote time span. But there is a measurable consistency to it that is more than like a dream. Like a normal dream is just kind of like randomized and it's not really measurable and all this kind of stuff. But when you experience a dream that is very lucid and very measurable and very consistent and very long, quote unquote long, it's really not that much different to your wakeful reality. And I don't know what the listeners think and whatnot, but whenever I've had it, it's always dark as well. It's always like nighttime. It's always a nighttime type experience, which is strange, I suppose, to some degree. But yeah, that's kind of always how it's been to me. But yeah, I'm sorry, I sidetracked us a little bit into that. Just give me 2 minutes. I'm going to pop to the bathroom. Yeah, I'll be back.
All right. Well, in that case, I'll get us back on track, and I'll try and explain why it is that Joe Rogan believes that quantum computers are pulling answers out of other universes somehow, and why it might be that what's his name, Hart at Nemrut, right? Why he might believe it, And it does go back to the many worlds theory. I'll just try and explain how that works. So David Deutsch, although his work is based, the progenitor of this many worlds theory was what's his name? Hugh Everett. And he was like a military scientist. I don't think he didn't have his head in the right place, really, to be honest with you. But so David Deutsch believes that, based on the work of Hugh Everett, that every quantum possibility exists as its own real universe. So depending on the decisions you make, and not even the decisions, but just on every molecular movement in every person and every single living creature, every molecular movement, because they're quantum phenomenon. So there has to be a new universe for every single photon, basically, every single quantum phenomenon, which is insane, because it means there are basically infinite universes, and it's just bonkeroony, because then it means that you've got all sorts of possibilities of chaotic, realities, and it just doesn't make sense to me. And I don't think it's efficient either. And what would be the point anyway? So that he does. The theory is the waveform doesn't collapse, but instead you're traveling through an essentially infinite number of universes. But then it means, if that's true, the many worlds theory, then we are constantly always going through the many worlds, and we're constantly traveling through multiple universes every single second of our lives, which is bonkers, absolutely bonkers. And it reminds me of the sort of quantum suicide theory that John McAfee came up with. I don't know if you're still there, Future Shock, but if you remember that we talked about John McAfee read out the quantum suicide thing, where he actually demonstrated it. He did it with that Wired journalist. He had a single bullet in a revolver, and he would obviously roll the chamber and fire. To our observation, John McAfee's now passed, but he wasn't killed by a gunshot to the head. But the theory is, the rather silly theory is that you can never die by doing that, because even if somehow you would get the bullet in the chamber and shot you, you would instantly travel to another universe where the bullet wasn't in the chamber, in the firing chamber. And that's called quantum immortality, and it's bonkers, and it's based on many worlds theory, and it means that we all live forever, because even when we appear to die or such, somehow our consciousness is whisked off to another universe where we're cured of lung cancer. I just don't know how it works, but it doesn't work. That's the point. It's insane. And it's all wrapped up with this many worlds theory, all of these nonsense theories, quantum immortality, quantum suicide. It makes no sense. Depending on the interpretation of quantum mechanics, either the Copenhagen theory or the Hugh Everett many worlds theory, which is the wrong one. Depending on that interpretation, that's going to bias. And because the many worlds theory has a lot of traction these days because of fucking Marvel and all that shit, the multiverse, and it's nonsense. But the thing is, that's gaining traction, even though among the scientific establishment, the many worlds theory is by no means accepted. So yeah, I mean, one of my contentions is that the universe is efficient, that it would create player instances rather than map the whole universe. So it wouldn't do that. The Copenhagen theory is essentially player instances where the world materializes around your observation, and that's how computers work. And in many ways, the process of computers actually do reproduce the processes of the natural world, and also they're electromagnetic, they're photonic, they're light-based systems, just as this world around us is. But the case is one of misrepresentation, because the nature of the quantum function is, instead of a field of possibilities, which it is a range of possibilities. That is the quantum wave function, but it only becomes real once the waveform collapses. Because if you believed, the thing is, the other interpretation of the quantum wave function is that it's a field of possibilities, but that every possibility is manifest and has its own universe. It just doesn't make sense. But anyway, quantum stocks rallied in December after Alphabet's Google announced the Willow quantum computing chip. And this is very typical. They say something like this. This man Nemrut Hatta has made this announcement solely, if I'm going to be cynical, and I am going to be cynical, in order to sort of play this game of driving up the share price of quantum stocks. And it rallied in December because there'd been a low, there'd been a big fall off of quantum computing stocks. But it's what they're sort of lauding this quantum computer, this Willow chip, as we saw before, that it could solve a complex. It took Willow 5 minutes to solve a problem that would take a traditional computer like El Capitan, which is the most powerful supercomputer. It would take apparently 10 to the power 24 years, which is 10 with 24 zeros, to solve the problem. The problem is we don't know what the problem that was set for the quantum computer to solve. But we do. It's what's called a random circuit sampling problem. And it's a bit of a sleight of hand because it's not really a problem. It's just like the Chinese so-called photonic quantum computer, which I referenced to a few weeks ago. Whereas the Chinese so-called photonic quantum computer was the first computer to achieve quantum supremacy. And it did this by solving a problem, so-called, that a traditional supercomputer would take 10 to 25 years. But it's because that so-called quantum computer, it was a boson spread problem. So a computer would not be able to predict and to forecast and to solve the boson spread. Bosons are subatomic particles. But this photonic quantum computer, basically, it was an optics-based system which just sent light around various passages. Basically, it sent photons through various trackways, very, very complicated stuff, and then they just read the results at the where the light would have finished its journey. That is basically all it did. The Willow chip is similar in that the so-called problem is something that's what it does. It's not that the computer is solving or calculating. It's not calculating anything. It's not solving a problem. It's just what the quantum computer does. It has qubits, and they interact. And what the problem is, it's that can't be calculated by a traditional computer because it doesn't have that same system of interacting quantum bits.
Why is everyone talking about need other universes?
Well, okay, exactly. Well, I'll get into that. That's slightly. The reason is because, according to the Hugh Everett interpretation of quantum mechanics, they believe that the quantum wave form doesn't collapse, and that every single universe is implicit in the quantum wave function. So if your computer has qubits, which are basically quantum wave functions, nodes of the quantum wave function, and it has 100 of these. So if the quantum computer has the quantum wave function inside it, then, according to the Hugh Everett many worlds, then that computer also has all of those multi-universes inside it. Does that make sense? It's just a question of interpretation.
To some degree. Hang on. You might need to say that again. Sorry for me.
All right. So listen, there's two interpretations of how quantum mechanics works. There's a Copenhagen, where quantum phenomenon, observing it collapses it. There's the many worlds theory, where the quantum wave function doesn't collapse, but that every universe is in that quantum phenomenon, and every possibility is realized. So you got a quantum computer which works by having qubits, which are a quantum wave function, which means that they're not being read, but there's something that exists in I would say it's a four-dimensional state. So neither binary nor negative, but both at once, but everything at once. Like that flux, like what I call quantum flux, right? Where everything is possible, but only by interacting with the quantum flux with your human mind do you observe, does reality sort of come into view and sort of collapse the wave function. I mean, the famous example is Schrodinger's cat. You know about that one, right?
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
So Schrodinger's cat, there's a special apparatus with a radioactive vial, which it can, if it's broken, it will release a point. If there's a certain radioactive decay, which is a 50-50 chance, then it will release the stray particle will release a poison, which will interact with the vial, which will kill the cat. But there's a 50-50% chance of the cat dying or not. But without removing the box, the cat is said to exist in both states at the same time. And it's only by lifting the box that you're making the cat either alive or dead in a way. By observing it, you're inducing the state in the cat. Before you lift the box, it's both alive and dead, because there's no way to read. There's no way to read the state of the cats, and this is born out by my experiences playing card games with a Chinese friend of mine. Because there's a game called, I don't know if we've had this conversation. There's that game Shithead.
You've explained about Shithead before.
We've done that before. Yeah? We've done it on the show, yeah.
Not on the show. We've not on the show. We did it years ago, though. You chatted about this years ago.
Yeah. Well,
explain it again. Yeah, definitely.
Right. Well, the game Shithead is when you got to get rid of it. It's like a trumps-based game. You got 3 cards in your hand, 3 face up, 3 face down. You get to the end game part, and you've got 3 face down cards. And the idea is you've got to get rid of your cards, and the first person to do so wins. But the problem is you've got lots of trump cards, so you can really stiff someone up by giving them like a 3 to play on. So they have to. 3 is a special card. You have to play 3 afterwards, or the same suit. Or you can play a 7 or lower, and you play 7. They play 7 or lower. Or you play an ace, and you think that's an ace. That's a high card. They have to play high afterwards, and that's pretty. And then statistically, the more, if you're playing cards and you have cards in your hand, and the person next to you doesn't know what his card is, the chances are you're going to be in a much better position to tactically make him pick up the cards because he can't play. But that card is in a quantum superposition state because it's face down, and unless you've counted the cards, that card could be any card that you want it to be. It's only when you lift the card up that the card becomes an observable phenomenon, and we can tell, it's a 10, it's a 2, and 8. But this guy, this friend of mine, Chinese friend of mine, he would pray to Buddha, and I would play the most devious, difficult possible card, and it was almost certain statistically that he would pick up, because there are various, like playing ace, he's got to play an ace, or he's got to play 2. There's only relatively few cards he can play. But almost every time, he would make a little prayer to Buddha, and then I'd get really stuff with Buddha. I'd say, "Fuck off, Buddha! Don't be on his side. Get out of our kitchen. We're playing cards." And then what would happen, right? He would pray to Buddha, and he would almost not have to look at the card because he was so confident, and he would flip it over, and it was exactly the card he wanted, and it was absolutely infuriating. But that was his confidence, his prayers, or whatever it was, because he had all that. He made that card what he wanted it to be. And I definitely believe that. And that's how quantum mechanics works, is if you have a face-down card, you can make that card with your belief and your Buddha fucking belief, prayer, and whatever. Because he did it, and I've seen it firsthand.
That card is not determined at that point. Like, it's not determined. Like, it's not. Like, say that card is
exactly. That's it. That's right. That's what quantum. That's quantum wavelength.
This is interesting, though. It's kind of like, is this what we're saying, that card is not?
Yeah,
you can put it down there, and it's not determined. It's not determined. You can determine that with your thoughts. I don't know. I do think that
it's not determined. It doesn't have any reality until you lift it up. You know, I mean,
yeah, I couldn't rule that out. The thing is, like, also you can't
That's
rule that out.
Is about.
You can't rule that out.
No,
because you can't prove the opposite. How can you prove the opposite? You can't.
So but you can observe the fact, like I did with my mate, and you can say there's something else going on here than just random chance and just statistical probability in cards. There's something else. There's his confidence. There's his prayers. There's his dancing around the kitchen, showing off what he did every time he fucking won, and he won a lot. And all of this is the factor that we can't remove from our reality. You know, confidence, the ability of sports people. We talked about this before, but you know, just the things you can do on confidence alone and belief, the fact is you manipulate reality by confidence, by your belief systems, your sets, your views, your confidence, your energy level. And I think you'd agree with that, though, just on a functional level, right? That, you know, the way you interact with reality depends on how reality responds to you, right?
Yeah, you can definitely, to a lot of degrees. I don't know whether I can kind of agree with the fact that a face down card can be necessarily determined by someone's confidence level or like interactions with reality. Although I can't also claim that to be wrong as well. So yeah. I don't know. I can't say.
Yeah, but but we did. Yeah, but your stuff. That my chapter is creating coincidence in my book that I've written, Light in the Darkness. I think I've edited.
We had that thing about me doing the whole thing.
Yeah, well, there you go. We talked about you doing that with the card, the Oyster card, and that's the idea. It's kind of a similar idea of manifesting, of believing in something and it will appear, you know, or believing enough, or hoping and praying and whatever. But
the visualization,
it will conform to your wishes to some extent, right? And that's how you got the Oyster card.
Visualization. Right? I mean, it's kind of like there does seem to be something about visualization that if you can kind of like just hold it in your mind, and you visualize that thing and that thing and that thing and that thing again and again and again and again. You know, whatever it might be the most simple thing, it might be something kind of complicated or whatever. It does seem to have some kind of gravity to it. I'm not saying that necessarily it's going to work 100% of the time, but you know, like we saw ourselves with our experiments with it, my experiment with it, trying to find the Oyster card and you know whatever it was that we were trying to find at the time, and
I think it was 10p, wasn't it? At one point, you're looking for 10p, and you found
10p. Working it up to the Oyster card, like you know, it was successful. It was successful. Like we can't deny that it worked. Like you know, so like what can we say? Like it definitely worked. I mean, like for those that weren't listening to the podcast at the time, or I suppose, sorry, the podcast that you know, where I was describing it a bit better. We were just trying to work our way up from like finding a 5p, 10p, and all this kind of stuff to finding an Oyster card, I think it was, and I found a half an Oyster card, and I found another half of an Oyster card, and all this kind of thing, and you know, eventually I found a full Oyster card just by visualizing it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And
you kind of believed in the process. You sort of you believed.
I believed it was going to work.
Yeah.
I didn't think it was going to work.
I don't know how I convinced you. I really don't, but you did believe it. I've no idea how I convinced you to take part in that experiment. Why you believe?
You know, by now I'm kind of I've got an interested kind of mind about these things. So like I was just interested to try it. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Anyway, we're going to play the thing, isn't it?
I'm going to play a thing in it, but I'm just going to go on about a little bit more about this Willow computer chip because. I'm going to play this thing, but a lot of scientists are very dubious. So I've read somewhere, but I can't quote this actually right now. It would take. No, hang on, that's not right. No. So there's this. Hang on. I'm just right. Yeah, the Nvidia CEO. So yeah, as I said, the quantum computing stocks they surged on the basis of Nimrat Hatat's blather about many universes, because it sounds good, doesn't it? It sounds good. You know, Joe Rogan, how excited he was because he'd read that it's pulling answers from other universes, and the power of a quantum computer is so unbelievable. No, it's bullshit. Yeah. Exciting, I know, right? And that's how you get the share price to go up. You get people like Joe Rogan to say things like that, bless his heart. But someone who does know about technology is Nvidia's Jensen Huang. Yeah, he's the one I'm trying to find. He says useful quantum computers could be as much as 15 to 30 years away, causing quantum stocks to plunge. And that's Nvidia. That's Nvidia. That's the graphics people, right? The graphics card. As much as 15 to 30 years away, right? That. So as a result, all of the stocks, quantum computing stocks, are quite down. Quantum computer lost 52%. D-Wave, 24% down. So there's a lot of scamming going on. I mean, there's a lot of military industrial. Lockheed are heavily involved in quantum computing, and obviously they want the stocks they want the share price to be.
Truthfully, what I'm just going to say, I'm just going to sort of interrupt you just very briefly and say that we've got quite a few people who have started listening on X and everything. So like and subscribe to the thing, man. Big up to all you guys listening. And we'll keep on talking. I'm just saying, like and subscribe to us. It really helps the channel. We're trying to grow the channel, and just go on the YouTube, like and subscribe, and we'll keep putting out this content, and we'll keep talking about these kind of things. It's lots of fun. We love having these conversations, isn't it? We love having these. 2 hours 23, and we keep going for a while. So anyway, sorry to butt in, but I just noticed that we're doing pretty well on our numbers, man, today. So big up to you all for
so you're going to give the audience a big kiss and a round of applause, is that what we're doing?
Man, get them all
all right, cool.
Anyway, sorry, go on, man.
No, so do you understand now why then Joe Rogan now thinks that quantum computing is pulling answers out of universes, of our universes? Do you know what I mean? Do you know do you see how it's been misinterpreted? The many worlds theory, the quantum wave is all universes in the quantum waveform. So if you have a quantum waveform in a quantum computer, then by extension you must have all those universes inside your quantum computer, which sounds bonkers, though, right? That's the point.
Yes. What does that actually mean?
Well, that means that many worlds theory is wrong, because it makes no sense, and that's the point. If the many worlds theory is correct, then Joe Rogan is right. Somehow the computer is pulling answers out of other universes, but it's bonkers. But that's. But I don't believe in the many worlds. I believe in the Copenhagen interpretation, and as I said, it's been backed up by examples of being in. If you believe you can influence reality to some extent, you're the observer. It's an observer, and you believe in the sort of player instance model of reality, and you believe in the idea that our universe is efficient and it uses special ratios, sometimes quantifiable, to create the world.
I will just sort of say that I've never been under the impression that the universe has been particularly efficient. Like what?
No, it is. It is. No, it is though. Why isn't it?
How is it? Okay, so is it? Okay, so let me I should slightly rephrase that. I don't think the universe is particularly efficient in creating life, and so what is the point of a universe? I think potentially the point of I think if you're going to create a universe, probably the point of creating a universe, I guess, is maybe to create life. And I think that.
But why do you not think it's efficient? That's the point we're talking about.
Because
why
it's not creating much life. Where is the life? Okay, we're here. Okay, but where is the life? There is there is a lack of life
You
across.
just said there are 100 trillion galaxies, right?
They don't have much life in them, though. Like there's not.
How do you know that?
Well, okay, that's a fair comment, but like I will say that, like from what we can observe right now, we don't see much life, and I don't think from current observation that the universe is particularly efficient at creating life, in my opinion. I think the universe is actually a very hostile place for life. I mean, I think it's very difficult to create life. I mean, I think there's like what the circumstances.
Hang on, that's what the universe does. It creates life. Do you know what I mean? That's why you said what's eventually create life. It's for creating life. That's what it is.
Yes, it eventually creates life, but it's not that efficient at creating life. Otherwise, we would have so many solar systems and so many lives out there. I mean, like.
Well, we probably do, but we just can't. We don't have the technology to reach them. And it's like, as I said before, if all the life was allowed to mingle like some kind of galactic disco, we'd end up enslaving each other. I think that's true. I think that the planets and the suns, they kept the distances optimum, that they will be able to be undisturbed by more advanced civilizations.
I don't know. Maybe.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah. No, all right. I mean, it's a big maybe. We don't know the answers. It's just worth.
No. I think that you're kind of I mean, I'm not trying to say that you're wrong, but like I'm just saying that, like, I guess we don't have necessarily the evidence to sort of like say yes or no. So maybe I'm being a bit kind of like.
Well, I mean, the thing is, I'm trying to present evidence. I'm presenting sort of personal story, anecdotes, but also sort of. The geometric ratios and the number sequences, and that you just plug into the system, into the universe, and it will create life. And I think there is a certain Spartan efficiency about that kind of system where it just needs a few numbers and ratios.
If it was that good, though, we would be seeing it a lot more, wouldn't we? I mean, I don't know. I mean, like, would we? I mean,
but it's everywhere. The sort of Fibonacci sequence, they're sort of implicit in every, even the number, the way bacteria reproduce, the way cities grow, the way people reproduce, everything there's a special number that it's called. I think it's called Euler's number. Euler's number, and it's the number which governs all growth in all systems throughout the whole. Our observable world, and it's just a number. It's amazing to think that you just put this number in, and then the universe will, create this growth cycle.
To be fair, though, is it just time? Is it just a case of like there is time, and time needs to happen to, there has to be a certain amount of time that passes for life to develop to a certain degree that we can detect it. Because the
problem is, I've just got to say something about the Euler's number, though, because this is important. And this is the thing is with Euler's number, it's not a rational number. It doesn't end. So there are numbers in nature, but they're not numbers that are rational because they're endless. Do you know what I mean? So it's like numbers usually numbers are used to represent like ratios and relationships, of course. And they're usually finite, but when a number is infinite, like pi is another one, then it becomes like it transcends. We can never truly calculate pi, the ratio of a circle to square. We can't do it because that number is beyond our universe. It's beyond. It's almost something from the fourth dimension. It's almost a ratio that what it'll be a ratio in the fourth dimensional ratio or something like a growth ratio, but we can't actually measure it because it's an endless number. Do you see what I mean? Does that kind of make sense? So if the number's endless, then it's like it's beyond it goes beyond the borders of our kind of universe.
Look, I'm not oblivious to the fact that there's things that, like, number wise is kind of like a crazy kind of thought to even try to even
these irrational numbers, crazy.
Or to try to even rationalize what the hell we're even talking about at the end of the day. I mean, like, for me, and I've had this conversation with other people who I would rate as being like very intelligent people in terms of like knowing about the universe and knowing about science and these kind of things. But I've had these conversations where I've said to people that even we're not just even talking about aliens as such. It's like I believe genuinely that there has to be lots of other solar systems out there that have suns the same size of our suns, that have a sort of planetary systems that are very similar to the sort of like systems that we have, and therefore have Earths at the same sort of level of distance away from the same sort of level of size suns that we have, and therefore there are kind of like human type and very similar type Earth level alien, quote unquote aliens and all this kind of stuff. I think there's probably Earths out there. There's probably lots of Earths out there. I think Earths are a way of, creating life. Earths. I think that makes a lot of sense. I don't think that's very nonsensical.
No, there's going to be all sorts of life and all sorts of planets. I mean, our Earth life is our kind of, material life that we understand, but there's all going to be all sorts of life. I mean, there's even going to be like life on like blue giants and stuff like that. I mean, not on blue giants, but imagine being on a planet circling a blue giant or a blue supergiant. You're going to be a completely different kind of life form to what we are. We couldn't exist on that world. I mean, we can't even exist on Venus or Jupiter. Our bodies are made very specifically for this planet. But you can imagine what possibilities.
Yeah, I imagine that there's probably like kind of like a lot of Earths. There's a lot of solar systems with Earths as well. There's a lot of Earth type planets. Anyway, do you want to play the thing in it?
I'm just going to play this thing. Yeah, this is just a bit to wrap up really about the claims of Google's quantum chip. I hope I don't get a copyright thing for this. Okay, can you hear this?
Like physicist Sabine Hossenfelder didn't just break records; it shattered them. It solved a problem in under 5 minutes that would take the fastest.
Fucked up. I've lost the bit I was on. Bear with me, gentle audience. Here we go.
Quantum performance. Critics, like physicist Sabine Hossenfelder, argue that while this is impressive, it doesn't have any immediate real-world applications. It's like building the fastest race car, but only testing it on an empty track. Cool, but not exactly useful yet. Then there's the elephant in the room: scalability. Willow has 105 qubits, which is a big deal, but practical quantum computing will require millions of qubits, and not just any qubits, but ones that can operate reliably without errors. Quantum systems are notoriously delicate, with even tiny disturbances causing computational errors. Google's advancements in error correction are promising, but we're still far from solving this challenge completely. So, does this mean Willow's achievement doesn't matter?
So yeah, anyway, so even this is actually that's quite a good article. Can't remember what website that is, but what is that? Yeah, so that's good. So there's a lot of skepticism about this sort of quantum computing stuff, and how. Yeah, okay, so it solved the quantum computer Willow chip solved a problem, so cool, but all it did is it just sort of turned on, and then the qubits interacted with each other as they would, but that's been called, and then there was a reading taken, but that's been called a problem. But that can't be done by a normal computer because it doesn't have the same interaction of, we'll call them photons and electrons, because the quantum computer uses microwave pulses to send instructions to these qubits, and then after these sent these instructions using the microwave pulses, it then reads the state of the qubits. But there's actually no practical application for it, and they're so error prone, and there's so much downtime while the instructions have been sort of inputted, and that itself creates energy, which then in turn disrupts the quantum state of the qubits. So it's all most of it. There's so much bullshit. So we had I think in my articles that I could actually just make a reference to, if I haven't already, how I'll actually share the screen, how there were claims that AI quantum computing a system had somehow contacting extraterrestrials. Absolute nonsense.
So like AI.
No, I've just got to get into. I've just got some articles about this. I'm just going to try and track them down that I actually wrote. I just got to check my facts. Yeah. So listen. I tell you what. We'll play a tune, right? Then we'll do like 5 more minutes, and then we'll wrap up. Shall we do that? We'll play a song.
I'm up for, I can stay for a while. I don't know how long you've got to.
All right. Well, I'm going to have a little break because I'm just going to find these articles.
Yeah, a little break. We can get back to it for a little bit. I'm not really need to go soon, and we've got quite a few people listening actually at the moment, so we can just keep going. I mean.
So okay, I'm just going to.
I'm up for that if you want.
Goggle-eyed now, goggle-eyed. Right, I'm just going to play a song and blink and just close them and just take a deep breath. Right. So just got to remove this. That's that. Hang on.
Yeah. Should I get one of my latest tunes? And
that would be awesome. Do you want to?
I probably need to sort of log in. I probably need to sort of.
I don't know how long that'll take you, but I'm ready to play a song now. So this is about 4 minutes.
Drop a song now, and I'll. I think.
So while I'm doing that, I'll find my articles, and then if you could find a Future Shock tune, that'd be cool.
Yeah, man, bear with me. I'll be back in.
Oh, listen. One thing is, I'll just check that you can hear it because I don't know what's going on.
Yeah, I can hear that.
Oh, okay, good. Okay, all right. Let's go. Okay, so a few minutes break while we go back and take a deep breath and blink, maybe. Yeah, right. Let's go. Unmute. Bang.
Why
Okay, that was Sandwich Pan and Heavy Traffic. You're on Drive Time. The time is 10 to 10, and I'm your host. Anyway, are you there? Well, he's disappeared. Anyway, all right, so Future Shock is not presently here. He's trying to find some drum and bass track for us. In the meantime, I'm just going to go over this article and do a bit of shameless self-promotion. So, state-of-the-art quantum confuser. Yeah, there were loads of claims made about quantum computing, particularly last year, and they were so outlandish, just as outlandish as the idea that Joe Rogan sort of propagated that, inadvertently propagated that somehow these things are working by pulling information from the universe. It just sounds absolutely nonsense. But anyway, this is in my updated edition of this book, Light in the Darkness, second edition, which you can choose to buy from Amazon, or you can choose just to download it for nothing, but that's up to you. But the thing is, you can actually get a paperback copy from Amazon, and with pictures and everything, so that's kind of cool. But then again, yeah, it has pictures even if you download the PDF. So yeah, I don't know, there's not that much in it really. It's up to you really. If you want to help me out, you could buy a copy of my book on Amazon. But even though you don't even have to, it doesn't even matter. So that's fine. It's up to you. So yeah, that's what are we on about here now? So yeah, there was a lot of like fevered sort of speculation and stuff about quantum computing. And this is one quote here that you can see. During a recent test, the computer generated results that were inconsistent with known physical laws. That's sort of like a bit ambiguous. It kind of does sound like it's sort of transcending reality, but the other sort of side, it just sounds like it's just fucked up and it didn't work. Both of those solutions fit that sentence. So yeah, this is the article. So this is tech writer called Gaurav Sharma writes for the Times Internet Group. He also writes for Medium. He published an article on Uday India in December 2023. An edited version of this appeared in Tech Gig, Feb 24. The abrupt shutdown of NASA's quantum computing project was triggered by an unforeseen incident during a routine test. Now, that's sort of like it's sort of the use of rhetoric such as unforeseen incident. I in the article I allude to it sort of the rapid invasion of the combined forces, and everyone will have their own, head crab accessory, because it's sort of like it's playing into sort of that kind of, people who play Half-Life and do video games, unforeseen consequences. The quantum computing program was actually more successful than expected, gave NASA some surprising results. And he says here, I do not believe NASA's quantum computer contacted extraterrestrial, but rather became extraterrestrial intelligence, which is, it's bullshit. It's just frankly bullshit. So you're saying in the sense that there's a quantum computer, which is not a lot. It's kind of cool, but all it is superconducting wires that have a sort of a sort of an electric charge, or which is indeterminate. It's not bloody extraterrestrial intelligence. It's just such sort of a hyperbole. And what's this one? Yeah, here's another one. He also notes NASA's Quantum Artificial Intelligence Laboratory, Quail, stopped reporting and posting its researches in April 2023, leading him to suppose the project had been abandoned. And again, there's this sort of hype. There's this endless quantum computing hype that, it's been abandoned. Why was it abandoned? So, to me, his quote is that this indicates that either they killed the program or found things too dangerous to share with the general public. So this is how quantum computing and the share price is being massaged by sort of these tech writers, sort of deliberately misinterpreting results and sort of coming out the most extreme nonsense that either is contacted. Researchers and government officials were concerned that the quantum computer might have contacted with an extraterrestrial intelligence, or even entered an unknown realm of computation. But that's because it's during the analysis of a complex simulation, the quantum computer demonstrated unprecedented computing power, solving a previously However, this remarkable achievement had an equally alarming consequence. Quantum computer began generating outputs that made no sense and challenged conventional. The point is, the quantum computer began generating outputs that made no sense because quantum computers are very error prone, because the energy state, the quantum state, can only be maintained at a temperature just a fraction of a degree above absolute zero. And any energy that you add into that by feeding it instructions or whatever is going to increase the temperature dramatically. So it's just errors. So you've got what that is error. But here he's saying it generated outputs that made no sense and challenged conventional. It's absolute bullshit. So I'll just say to people out there, watch out for this quantum computing nonsense. These things, they're not what you think they are, and they're years and years away from it. I've got nothing against them. I hope they crack on and and do well for themselves, quantum computers. But we're just being lied to, and I just hate lies. And I think we should just expose lies in whatever domain we encounter them. So what else we got here? Expert in emerging technologies Scott Hamilton, Euro IT security company Atos, writing for Tech Shepherd blog, refers to TechGig article as an apparently, and that's where he sort of says he's the one who says it became extraterrestrial intelligence. It's all in the article on the website, actually. You can check that out. It's quite relatively recent. So Reddit, so they found something too dangerous. Reddit thread discusses the potentially mysterious shutdown and posts 3 plausible possibilities for the shutdown. So this is dangerous, false report, general loss of functionality. Okay. Let me see if Future Shock's back. If he's I've got to put him on the stereo. All right, I'm just going to ask him to
Hello.
Oh, hey, here you are. Brilliant. So you can hear me, I guess, anyway. So
I am back.
You are back. So I'm just...
I got my tune. I uploaded my tune, which you can play in a little bit anyway.
That's awesome,
We've got plenty of time to play. The night is still young. So, I mean, going into multiple universes, I wanted to talk about that a little bit, if you were still up for doing a little bit of time. And a little bit of chat and everything. Like, what is your opinion on, like, in a general sense, about like the multiverse theory? I mean, like, for me, going back to what I was saying before, I think it's kind of like a more rational idea to have like sort of like multiple things. It goes back a bit to what I was saying about the kind of like, infinite thing or whatever. I think it's more likely that there's multiple universes. I mean, like, obviously I can't like sort of like demonstrate to you evidence of that per se, but like, I mean, I think that it's more likely that there is evidence of that, but like, I don't know. I wondered what your thoughts were on that, and what would you like to sort of like discuss about that? Because I think that like it makes more sense to me that there's like, because like I think it's what's probably most likely is that like we were created by something that was already able to kind of like learn from the universe that it was created by to then create the universe that we are, if that makes some kind of sense. So I don't really necessarily believe in
it's like the Russian doll sort of idea.
Yeah, it kind of, yeah. And that's kind of why I also don't believe in like.
Is it the little doll who creates the big doll, or is it the big doll who creates the little doll? How does it? Does it go upwards or downwards?
I don't really know. I mean, I guess it has to go upwards. I mean, but also at the same time, I know that's kind of necessarily going to kind of like go against some of the things that like yourself and other people believe about religions and stuff like this. It's like, because I don't believe.
Well, not necessarily. I mean, no. Hang on. No, don't. I don't think that I don't actually agree with that. I mean, that's only the Catholic Church of the Middle Ages that had a problem. Do you know what I mean? There's nothing that Jesus, you know, Lord Jesus Christ, he has nothing against people using telescopes, as far as I know, or you know, he's got no beef.
I don't really believe that Jesus Christ or
anybody for him, obviously, but you know what I mean.
I don't think that that's any kind of like. Anyway, I don't think that that's any kind of like. You know, I think that these are kind of man-made things, and they're understandable. Because they're man-made things to try to understand how we're trying to interpret ourselves.
What's a man-made thing?
The religions, whether that's Christianity,
I mean, you know, you could debate that. It's half and half. I mean,
well, show me a Christianity.
But what I meant,
my thing is, and I know we're going to probably like disagree with this, and it's probably kind of like a fun thing to talk about because we disagree.
Yeah,
with this.
yeah.
But like, you know, do you genuinely believe that we can go across the universe and find a Christian alien or an Islam alien or a Hindu alien? Because we're not. Wow. I
mean, listen, that's a bit. I'll be honest with you. That's kind of reductionist. I mean, listen, you know what I mean? It's like, I mean, it's a straw man. That's a straw man. I mean,
I don't know, but is it really like? But what? But do you think there is? So do you think that the answer to that is that there is a good Christian? So is your answer to that then that there is a Christian alien somewhere across the other side of the galaxy?
I don't even know what a Christian alien is, Future Shock. I don't know what you mean.
But then that's the answer, then, isn't it? Do you know what I mean?
I don't think there's any reason you can't.
I'm not trying to have a go at.
I'm just saying, no, the Catholic Church of the Middle Ages is what you're having a go at, not Jesus, not me, and not, you know, spirituality in general, but the Catholic Church of the Middle Ages, which famously, was apparently oppressed scientific research and retarded. Apparently, you know, I mean,
so I just think that the universe is fucking massive, and there's no way that anything that we can create in terms of religion on our planet is anyway relevant to any fucking any.
No. But hang on.
Alien
just relax. We are human being, right? What I believe as a Christian is that we are expression of God, right? We have God in us. The quantum mechanics, the quantum physics stuff tells us that, you know, we're electromagnetic beings, that we have the potential to modify our reality just by observing it. That's almost a godlike power, right? So this is like something that's been bequeathed with us. Now, I don't think, I've told you before that I've made a case that Jesus was the first sort of guy to understand quantum mechanics, which is why when he said, in the Gospel of Thomas, he says, lift up a stone, you'll find me there. Split a piece of wood, I'll be there. And the Bible, the Gospels are full of references to light. Always they're talking about light. You know, believe in the light while you have the light. I think that's the Gospel of John. There's so many references to light. It's like, and if you read the Gospel of Thomas, it's clearly a manifesto about realizing we live in a observer-focused quantum reality, which is also illusionary. You know, it's also an illusionary reality. So, right. But that has nothing to do with what the Catholic Church of the Middle Ages propagated, because they tried to stop people reading the Bible. They didn't want people to read Jesus' words because they would realize that what Jesus said and what the church is telling them were not the same thing.
So what do you think Jesus would mean to okay, so let's say that, you know, we encountered someone from the other side of the galaxy who understood the similar kind of principles of the properties of light that we are agreeing on right now.
Yeah. Well, you're also talking about the properties of life. That life is something that comes from light. That light animates us, like electromagnetic energy.
I'm not trying to deny that, like, Jesus or Christianity is not interpreting things in a certain way that might be accurate. But what I'm saying is that, like, I don't believe that a man-made religion, for me personally, I don't.
But hang on. You're saying it's man-made, but I'm trying to define what a man is, and I'm saying so man-made. But what is man? Comes from God. So I mean, the things that we create, that doesn't mean that they're wrong just because we create them, does it? Okay.
No. Okay.
Not necessarily, right?
The interpretation of them, yes. But I don't think that we can sort of say that, like, Jesus Christ or whatever is affiliated with Christianity, or let's say Islam or Hinduism or whichever religion it is. I don't think those things are applicable to other beings in the universe, is all I'm saying, basically.
And but what about those? What about the things that Jesus said? Don't you think they're applicable to other people, other creatures in the universe?
Right. Okay. Yeah. Okay.
Don't you think that the message of Jesus is quite a good message, and that it would be beneficial if we all followed that? I'll be honest with you.
That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is like.
No, hang on. I'm just trying to. I'm clarifying what you're saying, and
no, that's fine. That's fine. It's an interesting conversation.
What are you saying? Go on.
So what I'm saying is that what has been created, with whether you want to say Christianity or whether you want to say Islam, I'm looking at this on a more sort of macro scale in terms of like the human created religions. So I don't believe that any religion that has been spoken about on this planet is applicable to any other fucking planet.
All right, you keep saying that. Okay, we got that. We got that.
Sorry, in the universe. Sorry.
Okay, fine. Okay, right.
I don't believe that.
Just
to say one thing. Sorry, just to one second.
All right, go on.
I don't think that means that like what Jesus maybe said is necessarily incorrect. I'm saying that like there are necessarily interpretations of this thing that are.
All right, listen, I've already answered you, and I gave my answer, and I said the words that Jesus said would be beneficial to every creature in the universe. Is that not true?
Fine. Okay.
Yeah, that was my answer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean that everyone's a Christian.
I don't know what does that mean? What does it mean to be? For me, well, Jesus said there wasn't such a thing as Christian. They followed the way. That's what they called it. So, I mean. Listen, the Christian thing that you're thinking of, that's a church, right? That's been made by all sorts of lunatics over the years, right? That's been made by... The thing is, the early church fathers were actually pagans. They were actually Canaanites, and they were into other things. Most of them were homosexual, and they were party boys, and they tried to get on within the Manichaean system and the other systems, the pagan systems. They couldn't. So they became Christians when they realized that the Christianity thing was kicking off. And that's the truth of it. That's the church fathers. They saw a good thing when they saw one. And I know I shouldn't really say that because I'm supposed to be an Orthodox Christian, but I've looked into the early church, and you can't trust any of it really. You can only trust, in my opinion, only trust Jesus. So
what do you think happens? So when we pass on and like we encounter what we're going to encounter later.
Yeah.
What about that is necessarily entwined with
Christianity? Is that what you're going to say? Yeah,
Christian.
Yeah. Okay. All right. That's actually a good question. That's a very good question. Right. Now you're getting somewhere. Right. Jesus said, let me ask you. What did Jesus say you have to do to get to heaven? Did he say you have to go to church? Did he say you can't eat meat Friday? What did he say then?
Well, you fill me in. What did he say?
Well, you should know that. I mean, all Jesus said that you have to do is to love God with all your heart, your soul, and your mind, and to love your neighbor as yourself, and also to confess your sins. That's all you have to do. You have to confess your sins. You have to admit the things you've done that are bad were bad, and you are sorry for them, and you have to love God. And then you go to, obviously you believe Jesus' blood gives you this power. That's the idea, is that Jesus' sacrifice is the magic that breaks Satan's system of hell and sin.
Why is Jesus that power though?
Because he came to earth to do that sort of magical act, a ritualistic sort of act. He didn't intend, I believe, to come to earth. Because if you read the Gospels, you see that he changes. He actually, in the Garden of Gethsemane, he asks God if he will let him if he will change the cup, if he will remove the cup, and the cup is the cup of death. And he's asking God if he will say, is there any way I can actually not die, not be crucified? Because he knows what's coming and how bad it's going to be. I mean, can you imagine being tortured and crucified? It's horrible. and this is a day before. So he's asking God if there's any way he can change this and make it so he doesn't necessarily have to be brutally tortured and crucified alive, etc. So Jesus, in this sense, is
why is Earth important to the universe?
Why is what?
Why is Earth important to the universe?
Listen, I mean, look, you're firing questions at me that don't necessarily look. Every planet and every life is important in the universe because it's like it contains everything, contains the totality. So inside ourselves, inside our own consciousness, there's the whole universe. There's everything, like DNA, like how a DNA strand can contain your whole person, your whole identity, like not your experiences, but your thoughts, your predilections, your health, your physical appearance.
If we were to travel to like another like part of the galaxy, even just our galaxy, do you think that they will be talking about Christianity and Jesus?
They may have an equivalent. They may have something that's, if they're civilized, they'll have an equivalent. They'll have something that has the same system. But listen, the problem with this world is specifically. Hang on, let me speak. This world.
I'm not trying to cuss you out or anything. I'm just trying to
No. Yeah, but you asked me a question. I've got to answer it. The thing is with this world is, arguably, you look around. I mean, it's kind of demonic. There's been evil for thousands of years, and there's been the most appalling. It's just not even. It is like literally, if you were to look at this world from a certain point of view, it could look like hell. I mean, look what's happening. Look what's happening in Gaza right now. But the same shit's been happening for thousands of years here, man. It's like it's nothing new under the sun. This planet has always been under the control of these demonic, dark, hidden forces. And that's why we need this Jesus. You need Jesus because that allows us to break away from their dominion. They no longer have control or dominion over us when Jesus has saved us. The demons and evil has no power. And I'm speaking as someone who has seen demons. I know it might seem like bullshit, or how do you see a demon? Yeah, well, you talk to someone who's demonically possessed. They know what demon is, all right. Do you know what I mean? It's just that it's not something most people encounter. Sorry,
I said I don't deny that that's true at all.
Yeah. So I mean, let's put it this way: it's spiritual warfare, mate. It's like
what I would say. I'm not trying to kind of like cause like confrontation or whatever, but I'm just saying like. You just sort of said it yourself, like planets on the other side of the galaxy, they're not going to have, they may have their equivalent. So my point is that
there was Jesus incarnate on Earth. I mean, presumably he incarnated. He didn't incarnate in the universe. He incarnated on our world. So presumably, if those planets and those they will have different issues. They may not have the demonic pollution
have different
we have.
Types
Who knows? We don't know, but they have completely different.
But then they're planets in the universe. We're using that as a way to try to understand how we are trying to kind of live our lives and what the meaning of our lives is in the greater scheme of things. Yeah, and I don't believe that it's just my opinion, and we probably do disagree on this, and that's fine. And I don't want us to sort of fall out on this at all.
I know it's probably I know it's one of those things. It's politics and religion are one of those. Well, I mean, I don't even call it religion, but
but it's an interesting thing to talk about. Though it's an interesting thing to talk about because I don't necessarily believe that. This is what I've always said to people. It's like, okay, you're massively Islamic, or you're massively Hindu, or you're massively Judaic.
Okay. As long as they're good people, does it matter? I mean, I don't care.
Show me a Judaic alien. Right? Show me an Islamic alien. Oh, you can't because
I don't know what that means. Islamic alien, though. What is that?
You can't because.
Explain what you mean by that, please.
Well, because if it was real, if it was really a proper, tangible thing, it would be on multiple planets. And it will be instilled.
Not necessarily. Not necessarily. No. Listen, because as I've just told you, this planet has its particular issues. The Creator, our God, has interacted with has tried to solve our problems, our demonic problem, the spiritual power. What is it? What does it say in the Bible? We wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities in high places, demonic things. Right? Our Creator has given us Jesus as a way to solve that problem of demonic infestation. I mean, there are people who could be demonically possessed if you believe in that. You might not, or they could be mentally ill. You might say, but Jesus changes them. I know many people who have had who have been sort of more or less psychotic and suffered from trauma and such, and have developed, had very bad habits, shall we say, became Christian, got the Holy Spirit, and completely transformed their life. I mean, there's no doubt that happens. This happens a lot. So that's a macro. That's like what is that? A macrocosm of the That's like a microcosm of the macro. With the macro being the big picture that God sent Jesus to this earth to give us spiritual support. Okay. We're blind. That's it, right? So every planet probably has its own sort of system, has a different way of doing things, right? But God is interacting with those planets, one would hope, and helping that life form develop or whatever, right?
So what you're saying, I suppose, is like kind of like on this planet, like God like sent Jesus to kind of like
that's what I'm saying.
Sort of thing.
Okay,
I can kind of get that. That's an approach I can more.
I mean, okay. I mean, this Armageddon thing.
I'm looking at it as like a universe which is extremely vast, and I have no idea how a universe can be Christian or Muslim.
Well, but listen, stop. The fundamental thing is that God is light, and light is present throughout the whole universe. So in that respect, if the principles could be the same, if it's a planet like us that has fallen into sin, and for whatever reason it's got all these demonic, pollution, which okay, you might not believe in it, but the Freemasons do, that's for sure, and they think they're talking to these things, and I've written about that. So
I do believe that light is a big factor in the. Anyway, go on. Sorry.
Yeah, well, that's it. I mean, that's the point. That the light is something that is present through our whole universe, and it's fundamental. And that's what I believe God is. I believe God is present in this light, literally as a consciousness in light.
Yeah, we just disagree about the manifestation of it, but I suppose. But like, but that's cool.
Okay, I mean, so we've got some kind of entente, yeah.
We got a little bit of a thing there, but that's cool, man. It's like let's not like it's all good. What the fuck were we talking about before we got into that little argument? I can't
what it was universes, man. I don't know. Yeah, it was multiple universes. Yeah, it was that was it.
So what do you actually think about that? Because like I thought that we've chatted about this a little bit before about the wormholes that can maybe connect to universes and stuff. Do you think that our universe is like one? Or do you think it's like kind of like just sort of like connected to like many we talked about?
Well, that's interesting. I mean, I read something the other day about black holes and how the matter and light that's leaving a black hole could actually be the start of a new universe and be the big bang in another universe, and it'd be a white hole.
I'll go to red dwarf.
So, the exit, what leaves a black hole emerges from a white hole, but then we don't know if white holes really exist. I mean, we don't know.
White holes even kind of like, it's just this. As soon as someone says a white hole, it makes me think of the Red Dwarf episode.
Yeah.
Also, by the way, anyone who's listening to this who hasn't listened to Red Dwarf, who hasn't watched Red Dwarf, like me and True Spoon, we recommend Red Dwarf.
I mean, one of the funniest episodes is that one. What's that one where they do the multiverse thing, and it's so funny, and they're trying to find a universe where Rimmer isn't such a smeghead or something like that, right?
It's such a wonderful, like, what such a wonderful series it is. I mean, like,
yeah.
We were very blessed to grow up at a time where we had something like Red Dwarf. Yes, you look back at it now, and it's a bit kind of like dated in terms of its special effects or whatever. But like, if you guys want to watch like some funny like sci-fi comedy, Red Dwarf is great stuff, man. It's really great.
Yeah. So I don't want to stretch the patience of our audience. I think 3 hours we've gone long enough. So shall we bang your tune on, and then we'll just have a little bit of chit chat?
Okay, yeah. Put the tune on, then we'll go on for another like 20 minutes or so, and then
because I mean we're doing really well.
You have to end the tune, or you were.
I just think I think there's gonna be a point of diminishing returns where the audience are actually just getting kind of bored now. You don't give them too much of what.
Honestly, man, look, I'm checking our audience. We've just continuously increased in numbers. To be honest with you, we're still we're at the highest numbers we've had since we started. But anyway, let's put the tune on, and then we'll just talk for another like 10 minutes or so, and then.
Yeah. Okay. So can you introduce the song for us? The song, this.
Have you got it there? Catch the Colours, yeah?
Yeah. I've got it here, yeah.
So, Catch the Colours is a tune that I struggled with a little bit. It was a bit of a nasty tune to try and finish, but I'm kind of pleased with it, how it's come out and everything. And it's, it's a really nice sort of like drum and bass tune. And, I hope you guys enjoy it. It's a nice little atmospheric tune for you guys.
I tell you, I used to be sort of a bit frightened of drum and bass. My girlfriend at the time used to drag us to these drum and bass things, and it was like, it's certainly intense, isn't it? I mean, jungle, that's the really mad one.
Yeah, jungle.
You into jungle yourself?
Yeah, jungle was the original junglist, yeah.
Right. Yeah, man, that's sort of this. Yeah, I mean, obviously you're still making drum and bass.
They were long, clear.
Oh, hang on. Precarious there.
You go.
Right, anyway, I'm talking shit. So I'm gonna mute myself because I'm just waffling. Is it all right if I mute you too, sir?
Yeah, we'll mute it and we'll come back in. I think it's about 6
minutes. How long is the track anyway?
About 6 minutes ish.
Oh, okay, cool. I'll take a nice few deep.
So we'll reconvene in 6 minutes.
Cool. All right, catch you later. Yeah. All right, let's do it.
In a bit.
Clear. There are lots of stars at night. The most beautiful skies, as a matter of fact. The sunsets were purple and red and yellow, on fire. The clouds would catch the colors everywhere. You don't see that. You might still see it in the desert.
sees a blue sky. And at that moment, she learns something that all her studies couldn't tell her. She learns what it feels like to see color.
All right. Thank you for that, Future Shock.
You know what? I was thinking, like, Jesus, that sounded good, man. I'm pleased with that. That's, yeah, that little bit at the end, you know, one of the things seems to me to be one of the main problems with getting AI to be, like, you know, realistic in terms of, like, you know, what people are trying to do with AI. It's like, well, how are you going to get artificial intelligence to feel something? You're not. How are you going to do that? How are you going to program that? You know, you can
say the same about some people. Some people can't feel things, feel emotions and things. You know what I mean?
Yeah, you know, but I mean, I don't know if you were listening to it, like, or like, you know, you learn how to. She learned what it was like to feel, what it was like to see color, and I think
that is weird. Though, yeah,
it's a very poignant point. Because, like, you can say, okay, I can program you. You can program something to say, okay, this is color. Tap, tap, tap. This is color, and, you know, this is blue. This is red. This is yellow. Whatever. But how can you explain to me how you get anything or any structure, however you describe it, to feel what it seems like to see the sunshine, to see what it seems like, to see what it feels like to see a blue sky? I think that's a very interesting point, and it's what I'm very interested in.
Well, AI. A blue sky only makes sense if you can see it. Otherwise, it just doesn't exist.
Yes,
that's like the quantum mechanical idea. It's like, I think Albert Einstein, he said, I'd like to believe that the moon still exists even when I'm not looking at it. And he was refuting quantum mechanics because Einstein didn't like quantum mechanics. And funnily enough, you know, the Schrodinger's cat thing.
Yeah.
Schrodinger didn't like quantum mechanics either. He hated it. He actually made up the Schrodinger's cat thing. He created the cat story as a way to take the piss out of quantum physics. He said, no, it's bullshit. How could, look, I've got a box for the cat in here. So my cat's alive and dead at the same time. Oh, how stupid are you? But no, it's actually true. It's like, the implications of quantum mechanics were distasteful to him, and they seemed to be nonsense. So he created the allegory, I suppose you might call it, of Schrodinger's cat. But that is actually a fine model of what quantum mechanics represents. And like Einstein's the same. I like to believe the moon still exists even when I'm not looking at it, but implications of quantum mechanics are that it doesn't exist if you're not looking at it, and that does sound weird, I know. But if no one was here to observe the moon, it would have no reality. Do you know what I mean?
So this is kind of what I was going to ask you about. I was going to ask you about before. Is kind of like, this is what, like, does my head in about the whole thing. It's like, are we trying to say that if we aren't looking at, if there's nobody looking at the thing, does it not exist?
It's like a tree falls in a forest where there's no one to hear it. There's no one to see it or hear it.
Do we have to come to terms?
Does it make any sound? That's the thing, isn't it? You know.
Do we have to come to terms with the fact that these things don't exist until they're observed? And that's just kind of.
Well, what about the tree that falls in the forest? Does anyone hear it?
The sound exists. The sound does exist, but
its sound is only something that can be heard. It doesn't exist, does it? Sound doesn't exist.
It exists as a waveform. It's different.
Compression of air. Yeah,
it exists as a reaction, as such.
There is a compression of air, but there is not the sound because there's no one to hear it. I think that's still arguable, but that's my perspective. But yeah, the quantum physics thing is the same. It's like, if there's no one to observe it, it doesn't exist. It's in that flux. So it's like that computer game that hasn't been. It's like that the level of the computer game hasn't been loaded yet. Do you know what I mean? It's just dormant.
So if I was walking, if I was walking down the street, the other day, and it's like 4 a.m. in the morning, as it can be sometimes here, and I'm walking down the street and there's no one else around. If I don't observe,
it's Oyster cards.
If I don't observe the street around me, is it there? This is what pisses me off about the whole thing, because it's got to be there, right? It has to be there because there's people inside the houses and they're asleep.
Yeah, but then they're observing their reality, aren't they? They're doing their player instances. You're all doing little different player instances.
Imagine weird, isn't it?
Your eyes are like a flashlight, and what your flashlight falls upon is real for you, and it's real because there's only you can observe reality. And then everyone else is in their houses watching TV. Their player instances are active. They're doing their stuff. But if there's no one with flashlight eyes to see it, it ain't here. It ain't been brought into reality, because why would you? It's not efficient to do it that way. Yeah, honestly, that's the implications of quantum mechanics. That's what they're saying. That's why so many scientists actually don't like it.
So we're saying that it's not efficient in the sense that we don't need it. So in that respect, we don't necessarily need it in that sense. But then you do observe it. Then you do need it. You do need it. Oh man, it's difficult to understand. It's difficult. It's difficult to wrap your head around.
Yeah, of course it is. It's difficult. It's not supposed to be, but it is.
Like me as well, right? Because I'm not. The reason is you're somebody who's actually fucking intelligent enough to understand it. I'm just trying to be the layman. Do you know?
Yeah, but listen, the reason I understand it is because I've got spirit. I believe because of the spiritual dimension, and because of that kind of. I don't know. I think it's harder for a materialistic person to understand quantum mechanics. It's probably easier for someone who has like spiritual beliefs to believe in it. Honestly, and
maybe
because
it opens up a decent understanding of it, I suppose.
Because it puts us at the center of the universe, and that's where God put us. And I don't mean you and me, but I just mean life and the observer at the center of the universe. Science tells us it's an impersonal, cold universe that doesn't care if you're there or not, right? It doesn't give a fuck. That's what science is trying to tell us. But the quantum mechanics is the new science telling us that we are the center of the universe. The universe is for us, and we bring it into being.
No, I get what you mean. Yeah, definitely.
I mean, just think about how different animals perceive time differently. For instance, elephants, they sort of amble along. They seem really slow. They're animals, but they have a completely different perception of time to us. I think like flies, bugs, they perceive time really slow, isn't it? Really fast. They have so we're really slow to them. That's when you try and catch a fly, it's always elusive because it can see you coming a mile away.
It's such a slow sense. Yeah,
you're like an elephant to the fly because you're so slow. So if you think different animals can have such different perceptions of time and reality, it's so bizarre. So that's got to leave some leeway into some flexibility on how reality is perceived. And of course, different lights, birds and bugs can see light, colors that we don't even know exist. Do you know what I mean? Like things that we can't even imagine.
Well, what is our optical sort of like range or optical range.
So visible light, but it's only visible light because we
0.001% or whatever.
Oh yeah, that right of the wave of the electromagnetic spectrum. Yeah.
It's madness. Yeah, but then it's kind of like, but then does that kind of also kind of indicate what we're doing in terms of like we're unable to sort of see the dark matter and all this kind of stuff? Is this part of what we're unable to see in terms of the general universe? It's like I don't know if that's true or not. I don't know. It is crazy, and it's kind of like when we go back to kind of like talking about also like doing mushrooms or psychedelics and stuff like that. Is it just something that augments and creates like a different sort of like interpretation that we can have temporarily, I suppose? Are we able to just see a little bit better in those kind of senses? Do they enable us to see a little bit better? Are our eyes, just not that good? It seems to be that our eyes aren't that great. But then also at the same time, are our eyes only just able to see what they're able to see? Because if they were able to see more, it would be more trouble, for us to see more, if you know what I mean. So I don't know.
Oh, yeah. That's a good point. Yeah, that's actually a good point. Yeah, that's the problem with like the schizophrenic, isn't it? That the schizophrenic can no longer filter reality. Can no longer. He's making associations between people and things, and in their own mind. Their brain is sort of overactive, and they can no longer sort of filter out impressions. They're sort of seeing too much. And I think there's a case to be made that schizophrenics do have a hyper awareness. And very often schizophrenics are extremely intelligent people, really intelligent people.
Yeah, I mean, I would say that, like, because I've obviously worked in mental health for quite a while, 20 years, to be honest. And my experience of talking to schizophrenics, when I have done, is that they're not dumb. They're not like stupid people.
No, they never are. No,
they're definitely people who have a definite grasp on reality that you may not necessarily agree with everything that they're saying, but they're certainly able to kind of like integrate to some degree into sort of like I don't know how to say it exactly.
Well, they don't. That's not really the point. They're supposed to not have a grasp on reality, because that's the point, that they're supposed to be considered ill. But I consider the schizophrenics. That's it. The people I spoke to as schizophrenics, they see connections that. I mean, obviously, there's the famous beautiful mind and all that kind of stuff. The Hollywood schizophrenic, but schizophrenics, they often know things about things that most people don't know. They make connections. They see things that we don't see, and some of the things they see are terrifying. Often schizophrenics believe that they are being persecuted by demons. Whether you believe that or not, they believe it. So they've accessed some kind of. Well, I mean, we talked last week, didn't we? How schizophrenia is like an LSD trip. Really, it's like because it's adrenochrome. The body's producing adrenochrome because of the stress. And so usually, I mean, schizophrenics, they had some kind of horrible childhood trauma in childhood. Yeah. And often it's sometime late in life, in the 20s, generally, that trauma somehow something sort of mutates in their mind or something. So they get the adrenochrome crisis where the fear, the sort of terror, the sort of maybe thoughts about childhood, something that happened to them, becomes something terrifying in the 20s or something. They can no longer, no longer sort of explain it or make it fit well within their world. So they get this sort of adrenaline reaction, which is like fear, terror. And then the adrenaline builds up, becomes oxidized. And adrenochrome is a psychoactive compound, which is why the schizophrenic often has this sort of otherworldly. We went into this quite a lot last week, actually, didn't we? So
yeah, I mean, adrenochrome is.
But for me, it's like being on LSD. I mean, when you're on, if you're on, I'm not promoting drugs, but if anyone were to take anything like that, any mushrooms or such, if you were in that state for the rest of your life, you would be schizophrenic. It would be the same thing as psychosis. Like taking drugs makes you temporarily, taking those kind of things makes you temporarily sort of psychotic, arguably. Would you agree with that? Or
yeah, absolutely.
I think so. Yeah, temporary psychosis. Yeah, that's not to say psychosis is bad. It's just not good if you can't live with it. You can experience it as a kind of holiday for your brain.
Saying that it's bad or necessarily incorrect as such, but it's kind of like unfortunately, you may necessarily be tapping into something. And it's like
exactly, I do believe that you are tapping into something, and what you're tapping into is perhaps something you shouldn't be tapping into. But because if it's only a drug trip, you can the next day it'll fade away and you can be normal again. But being under adrenochrome schizophrenic, it won't go away. It's still in your body. The drug is still inside you. the only way to get rid of it is to deal with the cause of the stress and the terror and stop the production of the adrenaline, which therefore becomes adrenochrome. So, you know. Yeah, anyway, listen, Future Shock, I'm so puffed out, man. I'm going to smoke a cigarette and drink a cup of tea or something. We've done quite well today, haven't we?
Man, we have done 3 hours and 30. Yeah. 3:33. You know,
well, that's a good time to stop the 3:33s. Yeah.
Yes, the 3:33s, man. I'm happy to continue, but like, you know, if
you're making me look like bad cop because I want to. I've got.
I'm cool. I'm cool to finish. He's
all right. Save your enthusiasm for next week. What do you think about that? Yeah,
it's been a long time. It's been good, man. It's basically been my favorite stream, and we've got the most viewers we've had ever.
Yeah.
So if I just go on X now, we've got the most viewers we've had on X now. We've been climbing viewers. Have been climbing up since we've.
No, well, I mean, look, we are on 38 now. It doesn't make you think, doesn't it? Yeah, if you keep, at least it's not dropping.
Yeah,
I mean, that's got to be an encouraging sign.
Big up to all you guys who've been locked in. Yeah, make sure you subscribe to us, and like, you know, we're going to be back, and we're going to be doing more of this. And you know, we love talking about this kind of stuff, and sometimes we may disagree. Like you just heard us disagree about religious stuff and everything, but you know, it's all good. It's all love and everything, and we like.
Yeah, I mean, that's a good message for everyone.
Like talking about stuff, man. It's good to talk about. This
I don't even mind if we disagree. I just like talking about stuff. Do you know what I mean?
Well, this is it. Yeah. Let's talk about stuff, and let's let's have a bit of a sort of like debate about things. That's all good, man. But yeah, let's. All right, cool, man. So yeah. We'll end it here. And,
right, we're going to ask. We're going to encourage everyone out there to keep tumbling.
Keep tumbling. You know what it's like.
Getting battered by that solar wind. Get a bit of the solar wind.
We're going to be back on
freshen up a bit, in the solar wind.
We're going to try and. Do you know what? We're going to be back on Sunday, but like we're going to try and make this a bit more. Maybe we could try and do a bit more regular shows, but like, we'll be back next weekend.
We could try for twice a week or something. We could give it a shot. We could, we'll
absolutely. I mean, like this is the most I've seen us have like listeners. Like, I'm just looking at our X numbers now, and this is by far the most we've had. So this is kind of cool. It's cool to see us doing this. Like, so we're gonna keep building this, and 3 hours 35. It's not bad, man. It's not bad. And I've finished the whole fucking.
I need all sorts of breaks though right now. I mean, I need all the breaks. You can imagine the breaks, right? Coffee, tea break, fag break, bog break. I'm not gonna do them all at once, but anyway. So anyway, so I'm gonna play the music, and love to everyone out there.
People say
every life form, no matter what you may be.
And we'll see you soon. We'll be back on Sunday, I think. It's Sunday at 6.
Yeah, it'll be Sunday around 6 then. So
Sunday around 6. Just have a look on our X page, and we'll announce when we're going to be going live. And it's going to be more of the same. We're going to be talking about the same old stuff. We're going to be talking about the same old usual stuff. Usual sort of like lovely.
Hopefully not so much the usual stuff. It's like and the unusual stuff. We're talking about unusual stuff, right? Yeah,
it's the unusual stuff.
The usual unusual stuff.
That's what people like. That's what we like.
Yeah,
we like the unusual stuff.
The usual unusual. Yeah. All right, everyone. Take care. Thanks a lot. We're going to play the music and say goodbye. Ciao. Adieu. Au revoir. Keep tumbling.
Tumbling and tumbling.
There we go. Bye.